Guys, do something special for your wife this year with a gift that she'll cherish forever. It says, to my wife, I didn't marry you so that I could live with you. I married you because I can't live without you. I may not be your first date, your first kiss, or your first love, but I just want to be your last everything. I squeezed this necklace really tight and filled it with my love and light. If I'm ever not here and you need a hug, just hold this close to feel my love. Love, your husband.
The Joe Rogan Experience.
Drink by day, Joe Rogan podcast by night, all day.
So he's got, hi, good to see you, bro. Good to see you. So he's got this place called the Boneyard. My friend John Reeves in Alaska, and he made this for me too. This is like a little skull. That's a woolly mammoth tooth, like a molar. Wow. Yeah. So he has this incredible place, and he was a gold miner, and still is. And they started finding like an extraordinary amount of tusks and bones and skulls from animals that aren't even supposed to have been there. Yeah. And it's kind of rewriting history, but it's all in his land. Yeah. So he has complete control over it. And he has, like, see, there's John. He's this enormous dude. He's like 6'9", with a big giant man. And he has, this is just some of it. Like, show those warehouses that he has. So he had a research facility built on his property so they could study this stuff. And if we see outside in the lobby, there's actually a bison skull. That's like a 10,000 plus year old bison skull. So this area is only a few acres. This is what's really crazy. He has one area that's like, I believe it's like 4 acres, and another area that's about 6 acres. And there's also like a very heavy layer of carbon that, so it appears there was some sort of a mass fire. And he thinks that this mass extinction event that all the people like Graham Hancock and Randall Carlson talk about with the end of the Younger Dryas, the Younger Dryas impact.
Sure, yeah.
He thinks it's connected to this. He thinks that site might have been hit, and all these animals, probably in the Great Flood, their carcasses were washed into this sort of valley, this one area where they were kind of trapped up against the side of this mountain. So he hoses the mountain down. It's all permafrost, so it's all been frozen forever. And they have these high pressure hoses, and they hose it until they expose like a tusk. And they have, this is what they do all day.
Yeah, those hoses are what you use for mining gold too.
Yes,
yeah.
That's why he has them. Yeah, that's exactly why he has them. He's a gold miner.
Yeah, so this is around the southeast coast.
I don't know exactly what part of Alaska he's in, but it's really amazing stuff.
Yeah.
And another thing that he's exposed is that it's the Smithsonian, right, in New York? No. Well, find out what Museum in Natchwester. So they had, from the same property before he owned it, way back in like, I think it was the 30s, they had so many bones from this part of Alaska where the previous people had found them that they didn't have any room to store them, so they dumped them in the East River. Yeah. And so they denied that the previous people, obviously it's people that are long dead, they denied that this happened. And so he sent a bunch of divers out there, and so they're recovering like these mammoth bones and all these like bison bones, steppe bison bones in the East River.
Yeah.
That are all from his property in Alaska.
Yeah, you heard to explain how they got there otherwise.
There's only one. I mean, it's the literally exact spot to look to. Like, he knew exactly where to go. There's records of it, of like where they dumped it. And they still to this day have just crates of these bones.
Yeah, is that the reason he chose where he is living in Alaska? Is because
I don't believe so. No, he was there for gold mining. I think it was something that came up along the way. You know, because he's a gold miner, he's got a lot of disposable income, so he's willing to just spend it on his own to do this. He doesn't trust the museums anymore because they screwed over the previous owner, And even though it's his property and his land, he's supposed to get that stuff, and they don't want to give it to him. And, you know, and so he's got his own research facility that he built. He spent millions of dollars building this enormous research facility on his property so that they could study these bones. He's got warehouses full.
Yeah. What was his background? Like archaeology or something?
No, he was a swimmer, right? Yeah, he was a swimmer in college and became a gold miner. I mean, he told me the whole story. I don't totally remember it, but this is not something he wanted to get into.
This is middle near Fairbanks.
It's near Fairbanks.
Yeah. So this is where John lives. We do a podcast every year. Every year he comes back, like the last podcast of the year generally, and he gives us an update on what's going on.
Yeah. Let me take a look at that map. You know, I spent my first year after finishing my psychiatry training in Fairbanks.
Oh, did you really?
Yeah.
That's an interesting psychiatry place because the psychology of people that live in Alaska is very different. They're different. They're resilient humans.
Well, and they're there for a reason.
Right.
And their reason is to be at the end of the road.
Right. Or their family's there and they've grown up there.
Yeah.
But you meet like, I felt like I was meeting people from another country. Like I only worked in Alaska once. I did a show in Anchorage. It was a lot of fun. Me and my friend Ari Shafir, we said, let's just fly up there, just like an adventure trip. We'll do some salmon fishing and then we'll go do a show. And that's what we did.
Yeah.
And it's like the people feel different. They feel different. Like they're made out of harder things. They're like more durable.
Right. When you're up there, did you get outside of Anchorage, like into the interior at all?
We didn't do much traveling. We only kind of, I've been to Alaska a few times, a couple times for hunting trips, and I always feel the same way. I always feel like it's another country. Just like, very interesting.
It's a very strange atmosphere, too. With the climate and the geology and the feeling. Because you're up so high on the planet.
Right.
You're close to the North Pole.
Yeah, when we were doing shows, I believe it was July or August where we were doing shows, and at night after the show, it was bright out. You go outside, it was like you could see everything. It was weird. It was like it felt like it was 5 p.m.
It's a very strange feeling. Well, in the winter, too. You have maybe a couple of hours of twilight.
Yeah.
And that's it.
And then sometimes all dark for a long time, too.
Well, that occurs above the Arctic.
Have you ever seen that movie, 30 Days of Night? It's a vampire
Oh,
movie.
yeah, with Kiefer Sutherland.
No. That is The Lost Boys.
Oh, Lost Boys, right.
30 Days of Night was cooler.
Yeah.
Not that there was anything wrong with The Lost Boys. It's a little dated. 30 Days of Night is more modern, and these vampires decide to descend upon this small town where it never turns light, so they can just hunt all the time.
Yeah, that's clever.
Goldbelly ships the greatest food gifts to the biggest food lovers in your life. I'm shipping Ina Gardens cupcakes, caviar.
Yeah, vampires are smarter than they look.
These are creepy vampires too. The horrifying teeth. It's interesting how vampires sort of. We decide that they look like Bela Lugosi. You know, there's Dracula. That must be a vampire. And then some people think. Have you ever wondered, like, the root of some things like that? Like, I used to like wholly dismiss ghosts as a young man. You know, when I was a boy, because I was young and dumb. And then as I got older, I was like, maybe there's a reason why like, if I've never experienced something and then I do experience it, how am I ever going to explain this to people where it's going to make any sense to someone else that hasn't experienced it before? This episode is brought to you by The Farmer's Dog. Dogs are amazing. They're loyal. They're lovable. Like, just having Mark and this food, simple, fresh, or tried. Just go to the holidays or Bill, routine, the great one, on it really
Prove that you're in the you're in a good state.
right.
Yeah, it's a personal experience. Yeah, but that's a common one, so you can compare notes. I think that's how it works.
Haven't there been studies done? There's been something done where they've taken people in altered states and had them go into a room where they experienced, they weren't connected, they weren't communicating, but they experienced incredibly similar environments. I think that's in My Big Toe. You know, that The Theory of Everything book?
not
I
familiar
think
with
it's
it.
Thomas Campbell. Is that who wrote that? Yeah, it's really good.
Yeah.
I'm in the middle of that right now.
The Big Toe.
Yeah.
It's
It's a very strange book.
yeah, that's the name of the book. Or the
Yeah,
name of
that's the name of the book. It's my big theory of everything. Toe X
Oh,
theory of
oh, I
everything.
see. Okay. But it has a picture of a toe on the cover.
Yeah. When you were doing the DMT studies, it's kind of a similar thing, right? Like if you had never experienced that and someone was trying to describe it to you, it would sound completely like nonsense, just like a ghost would.
Right. Or even a dream to somebody that never dreamed.
Right. Right. Because there are people who don't dream, right? Which is very strange.
Yeah, yeah. Like there are people with no imagination that can't visualize things.
That's so bizarre.
Yeah. Yeah, and you give them psychedelics and they report that they can, but I mean, how do they know that they are? They
Right. That's an uncomfortable reality, that some people's brains don't work the same way.
Right. Yeah,
You know.
it's a fact though.
It has to be.
Yeah.
I mean, just look at like cultural choices. Just look at the different kinds of music that people enjoy, the different kinds of food that people enjoy, and the different kinds of climate that they enjoy. There's no way we're all seeing the same thing. There's no way. The food that tastes horrible to you is like a sacred delicacy to them. You know?
Yeah. One of the ideas I put out in the 2014 book on the prophetic state, the soul of prophecy, I proposed that people respond ethnically or culturally differently to different endogenous psychedelics. You know, the emphasis on the enlightenment experience in Buddhism might be because people in that part of the world produce or are more sensitive to 5-methoxy DMT, which gives you that wide-out experience. And with the other kind of religious experience, it's more DMT-like because it's full of angels and you speak to things, they speak to you. You know, so there may even be some kind of differential among people as far as, you know, the way they're hardwired for spiritual experience.
Well, it kind of makes sense too that if the way they move through the world is through a specific cultural training, right? The way their culture thinks about things, and just imagine being born in an atheist, secular environment, and you're raised by those people, and then you meet someone who's born in a fundamentalist Christian, religion where it's like very strict, and then they both meet when they're 14 and compare notes. It'd be the most bizarre versions of the world, right?
Well, I mean, one version is there is no God, and the other version is that there is.
Right, but there's one version that God is not just a part of your life, but the only reason why anything was ever formed. That's God's plan for everything. That God has, a plan for you, and that if you follow the teachings of God, you'll ultimately go to heaven. It's like very structured. Where the other side, it's like that life is suffering. There's, who knows what happens when you die, but probably nothing. If you feel depressed, you should probably go to the doctor and get a pill.
Yeah, yes. Yeah, so you wonder if the atheist's biology is different than the believer's.
I wonder if it becomes different, right? Because don't genes turn on and off expressions of genes based upon stress, based upon environments, based on a lot of things, right?
Right, and those changes can be inherited, like passed on to the next generation,
That's crazy.
Yeah, that's a theory about the syndrome of survivors of the Holocaust and their children. Is that the stress of being, for example, in the camps activated certain genes, which were then in an activated state passed on to the following generations. Yeah, I was. We were just talking about that. Like, at what point does trauma end? What point did the effects of trauma end?
Right.
Is it the first generation or the second?
And it's not just trauma, right? It's also just stress, like the hormetic stress of starvation. It actually makes the children of those people live longer. Dr. Rhonda Patrick talked about this. Really interesting.
Yeah, that's one of the spin-offs of fasting and starvation. There were a lot, speaking of starvation, there are a lot of studies of enforced starvation, like the camps in Africa at various times. Yeah, so there are some advantages, obviously, to a point.
Yeah, obviously you never want to ask them to do that. But when people do it voluntarily, like when they go on these 3 and 5 day fasts, I've never met one person who said, oh, I'll never do that again. That was fucking terrible and stupid.
Yeah.
And I felt really dumb and I didn't feel alive at all. No, they come back with like this very bizarre, euphoric, just like their version of it when they're expressing themselves. It seems like they were like on mushrooms.
Yeah.
Weird.
Is that something you've tried?
No, I've done a day.
I've done a day and I sneak in some espresso. I feel like, to try.
I think that's fine because this espresso doesn't. I mean,
No calories.
right? No calories. Yeah. I should do it. I should probably do it in a 3-day. See what's up. Because my friend Dana just did it. I think Dana did a 3 or 4 day. He said it was incredible. But everybody reports all this energy, which is really fascinating. Because I guess that's your body surviving off ketones.
Oh, right. You're in a ketotic state. Well,
Yeah.
when people fast for 3 or 4 days, do they drink water or they?
Yeah, oh, you have to. I mean, there's a thing called a dry fast, and people have done that. I've heard of people doing like 48-hour dry fasts, and that is no water as well.
Yeah.
You can keep that.
Yeah.
I'm so not interested in that.
Well, you can go on a vision quest,
Yeah.
plug out in the desert, not drink or not eat, and you do start hallucinating.
Yeah, I love McKenna's take on that. Do you know that?
I don't remember.
He told a story about how this monk, the Buddha was in town. This monk went to visit the Buddha, and he told the monk that he's practiced a city of levitation for the past 10 years, and now he can walk on water. And the Buddha goes, yeah, but the ferry's only a nickel. You know?
Right. Yeah.
Because here's my take on some of these things. Just because it's hard to do doesn't always mean it's good to do. Like, there are things that are hard to do, but they're good to do. Like, if you could run a marathon, at the end of that marathon, you're like, wow, I really did something. And you feel good. Wow, you're a little beat up, but you have a new faith in yourself. That's good to do. It's hard to do, but good to do. But if you run for like 7 days and you almost die,
Yeah. Yeah.
maybe you've crossed that line.
Well, I think a flip side of that is simple things can be good for you. But they don't have to be hard.
Sure.
Yeah.
No, things don't have to be hard to be good for you. A puppy smiling or licking you and playing with you is good for you. It's like literally like good for your body. Like if people play with puppies, that happiness feeling that you get, like what are you doing? What are you doing? That's actually really good for you.
Right. Well, this new neighborhood I moved into in May, there's a park, Altura Park. You would believe the number of dogs that are being walked around there. There's these little tiny ones. Well, like I haven't lived in the city in a long time. I haven't seen tiny dogs, but man, there's some tiny dogs out there.
Yeah, and Jamie's got a tiny one. He didn't bring him in today, but Carl's a little maniac.
Yeah.
He's a little French poodle, a French bulldog. He's like that big.
Yeah, they're cute.
He's adorable.
What does he weigh?
16 pounds now. He's jacked.
Yeah, he sounds.
He really is jacked. He's got a lot of muscle. He's super aggressive. Not with people, like not like real aggressive, like playful. Just wants to play constantly.
Yeah.
So I bring my dog, who's a golden retriever, who's the opposite. He's just everybody's best friend. If he meets you, he's like, "You're my best friend."
Right, right.
He loves everybody.
Yeah.
And Carl just launches himself at him.
Yeah, the one dog I had was a miniature dachshund. And
Oh, that's a cute little dog.
he was tough. He
Really?
He bit children.
That's not good. That's not tough. He's an asshole. Right, that dog's an asshole.
Yeah.
That sucks.
Oh, well, he lived 25 years.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Well, if I lived 25 years and I was a dog, I'd probably start biting kids too.
All right.
Get me out of here.
Well, toward the end, he's wearing a diaper.
Oof. I had a Mastiff, and they unfortunately don't live very long. And towards the end, I used to have to carry him outside to go to the bathroom. I couldn't even walk. That's the real bummer, is that you just love these creatures so much, and they only live 10 years, 12 years, 13 years. You know?
Well, do you replace it?
You never replace it. You get another dog. You can always love other dogs. I don't think there's anything wrong. I don't think it's like disrespectful to your dog to get a new dog when they die.
It wants you to be happy.
Well, yeah, it doesn't have anything to do with it. It's them. It's about you. Like, this is needless suffering. Do you love dogs? Do you miss having a dog? Get another dog. Like, this idea you have to mourn your dog for a specific period of time. Like, it's not a... Okay, if your wife dies and then next Friday night you're on a date, like, that seems crazy. Right? You should probably be sad for a long time. But if your dog dies, like, come on, man. Get another fucking dog.
Right. Well, if it's your whole life,
I love dogs.
Yeah.
I would never want to not have a dog. I just don't get it.
Yeah, those mastiffs are big.
He was a big fella. but they get a lot of like real problems with their joints because it's just so much weight.
Yeah.
Carrying a lot of weight.
Yeah. Yeah, we were talking about Alaska up in Fairbanks. Yeah, I was a psychiatrist for the county for about a year.
Boy.
Yeah. Yeah, it was amazing. Well, it was interesting because I had kind of given up the idea of doing research. And I thought, oh, I'll just practice psychiatry. My girlfriend back then wanted to be a wildlife biologist. And
Perfect place for that.
yeah, they've got a great department at the University of Alaska in Fairbanks. So we spent 2 months driving up there from Sacramento. Just had a great time.
Wow.
And then I started working up there it was for about a year. Cold. The lowest it got down to was minus 49 one day in February.
And you're from New Mexico.
Well, Los Angeles actually.
Oh, at that time?
Yeah, yeah.
Wow.
Well, it was snowing around Halloween, so I wasn't dressed for snow. I'd never really lived in snow, so.
What was it like going from Los Angeles to minus 39?
Well, I started to work on enjoying the dark. As a rule, people don't like the dark, but there's forest all around town, and it's dark, and especially in the winter. There's 18, 20 hours of pitch black.
That's so crazy.
Yeah, so I tried to imagine myself liking the dark. And it wasn't all that successful. I lasted about a year.
Is there a thing that happens, like, I lived in Boston when I was a kid, and one thing that it really does benefit you with bad weather is that when you have bad winters, you really love those summers. Those summers are so special. When me and my friends would like go out on a summer night, it's like we were so happy. It was warm out, we're outside, we're listening to music, hanging out together.
Boston, huh?
Yeah.
Is that because you have family there?
Yeah, well, no, my family moved there when I was 13.
Yeah.
So we lived in Jamaica Plain for a year, and then we lived in Newton, which is a suburb of Boston, it was really nice, cool
Yeah.
place to grow up.
Yeah. I was in the Bronx for medical school.
Ah.
The Bronx, New York, and I lived in the city for about a year. Yeah, it was great training.
Yeah, when you get, well, imagine it's the characters you meet, and the characters you meet in Alaska. I bet you met a lot of people on the run.
I met a lot of Christians up in Alaska.
Really?
Yeah, yeah.
Mostly?
Well, my patient population, the majority of people were pretty devout churchgoers and very strict about observance of the regulations in the Bible. So it was a fairly conservative type of city.
That's interesting. Like, did they impose it on other people? Like, did they have a gay community up there?
They mostly imposed it on their kids. Yeah, the family dynamics up there were pretty stressful.
Ooh.
You also cocaine too, because it's so dark and people get so depressed.
Oh, man.
Yeah. Well, Fairbanks had a boom when they built the oil pipeline between Prudhoe Bay and Anchorage, and so Fairbanks exploded in population. And when I moved there, it's been shrinking a bit. It's got the university, which is pretty cool up there. And amazing countryside, huge rivers, just enormous rivers. The one outside of town was a good half-mile across.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah, I went skiing out there once at 25 below on the frozen river. It's like, this is pretty nice. And I'm along the shore, and there's a dark spot in the middle of the river. And I'm curious, I ski over to that dark spot, there's open water.
Oh, my God.
In the middle of a quarter-mile
So you're out there.
2024 was iconic.
Oh, that creative finance. It all started with a little TikTok. You helped launch new authors.
He even got us back into bookstores. Because one little TikTok can spark a really big impact.
GS has given me the opportunity to really challenge myself in ways that I never thought that I could be challenged.
With your weight on skis.
So I backed up, skied back to the shore, and I felt really tired all of a sudden. Yeah, I looked down at the snow and I thought, well, maybe I could just take a little nap. And I thought, well, I'm getting hypothermic. Let me run back to the car.
Do you think that's what it was?
Yeah, it was funny. I wasn't cold. I wasn't shivering or anything, but I just
They say before you die, you actually want to take your clothes off, which is really crazy.
Yeah, yeah, that's what I've heard. Like in the snow when the first.
Yeah.
I kind of remember that.
Oof.
And the bears up there are forced to contend with the grizzly bears.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. One of my friends up there was living in a cabin, and a bear just stuck his claws in the door, pulled the door out of the frame of the house, and went into the refrigerator basically. And it kind of cleared that up.
So was he home?
Up in his loft, yeah, sleeping.
So he was awake while this was going on?
Yeah.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
So it just smelled food.
It smelled food, it smelled him, yeah, so.
And they don't abide by any rules. They don't really care
Uh,
on your door.
well, when I was up there, I learned to shoot a shotgun. It's called a bear stopper. It's a sawed-off shotgun you can carry with you if you're in the backcountry. Yeah, so they're just
Like a 12 gauge?
I think it's a 12 gauge.
Do you have slugs in it or is it
It's slugs.
buckshot? Yeah.
Oh, no, it had buckshot.
Okay.
So does that make it a 12 gauge?
No, it's all depends on the round. So a slug is like a chunk of lead, and buckshot is like a bunch of pellets.
Right.
So the buckshot is like it scatters into a pattern, and the further it is from the rifle barrel, like how far you're shooting. So if you're shooting 20 yards, it scatters quite a bit, and it makes an area of impact about that big, like a basketball sized.
Yeah,
Well,
well,
maybe a little smaller than that, but a slug is a single object and it has a lot more force behind it. So if you were shooting a bear, I would want a slug.
I think it was a shot.
It's a deterrent, though. I mean, you'll certainly deter them with buckshot.
Yeah, if you have a wide spray, it will
Yeah.
deter them. I kind of remember, although and this may be wrong, that one barrel had buckshot in it, and the other had a slug.
Oh, okay, that makes sense.
Yeah, so you can slow it down.
You probably shoot the first shot to try to slow them down, or to try to discourage them. And if that doesn't work, the second one's lethal.
Right, and they're much closer to you at that point. Yeah, so it's a pretty fun place to live in some ways.
I think just that alone, the environment, just the fact that it gets that cold, it's so dangerous. Everybody kind of has to stick together. You have to help people. See people just stranded on the side of the road, you don't just pass them. You have to help them. A person might be dying. And if you can get them out there and get them to safety, you're supposed to do that. So people like bond together a little bit more up there.
Well, and there's also the Northern Lights, which are just incredible.
Oh, yeah.
The reds and the greens.
How often did you see those every year?
Pretty much every night in the winter. And it was so quiet up there, you could actually listen to the Northern Lights. They hiss and crackle.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it's pretty wild.
They hiss and crackle.
Yeah.
What exactly is going on with the Northern Lights? Like, what is that caused by?
The magnetosphere and
Some solar rays? Like, what is
might be cosmic. It wouldn't be solar rays because it's dark, right?
right?
Yeah.
Unless it's like something that like is coming around the Earth.
Yeah.
What are they doing?
Are they cosmic rays?
It must be something.
Yeah.
Coronal mass eject, so solar.
Oh, yeah.
And magnetic activity, I guess. And might be reasons why they look at this Earth. Well, that alone might be worth living up there for.
Well, in the winter. Well, you could just spend a week up there in the winter. There's all kinds of hot springs in the area, too.
How hard is it to get around in the winter?
Your car needs to be equipped. There's these things called battery blankets that you put under your battery to keep it warm. And there's a
You
whole,
heat it?
yeah,
Plug it in?
yeah, it's plugged in to
Yeah.
traffic, to a parking meter or to the outside of the building. Yeah, everybody keeps their vehicles plugged in during the day when they're at work.
You'd have to, right?
You have to, yeah. And the other modification is an oil pan heater, which is the same, basic principle. It keeps the oil from turning into a solid block. Yeah. When it gets really cold, your tires are square.
What?
And it's really hard to drive around in for the first couple of miles.
They have to warm up?
You have to drive them slow to get them warmed up again.
Because otherwise they're like flattening down at the bottom where your car's been sitting.
Right.
Whoa.
Yeah, cold.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Isn't it amazing they still have to fill tires with air? That seems like the stupidest thing. Like, if you can get those people that are working on AI to just take a couple years off and figure out tires, Just take all these people that are making computers and figure out something that you don't have to put air in.
With with my garden tools or my garden carts, I use solid solid tires,
Yeah.
but they're a lot heavier. They never puncture.
Well, but there's a give factor with tires that's important to handling. There's things that are going on dynamically with tires when you're going around corners and your car has grip. Especially if you're off-roading, right? They deflate their tires quite a bit.
Yeah.
You get more traction.
Well, and it also will
Widens your footprint.
it widens your footprint so you won't get stuck in sand.
Yeah.
I used to spend a lot of time in Death Valley.
Oh wow,
Yeah.
driving around the sand.
Yeah, and then the canyons to the east and to the west of the valley.
So I guess that's the benefit of air is that you can air them down and do stuff with them. But it seems like the negative side of it, of getting a flat and getting stuck in the middle of nowhere because you don't have any air in your tire, that seems crazy.
Yeah. Well,
It's so vulnerable.
yeah.
Like the one thing of your car, someone chose to come by and go stab your tire, and now your car's useless.
Right.
So vulnerable.
Yeah. Yeah. Flat tires. So have you spent your time in Death Valley?
No.
Is it great? Well, if you still like to take psychedelics, huh?
Who doesn't like to take psychedelics?
Yeah. The best place, or one of
Death
the best
Valley?
places, is Death Valley.
That's what I've heard.
Yeah.
I've had friends that have had mushroom experiences out there.
Yeah, I've had some amazing experiences. It's huge, first of all, and it's really old. There's rocks out there that are 2 billion years old.
Really?
And you are, tripping, for example, and you're touching these 2 billion years old rocks, and you really feel something that you don't feel anywhere else.
I wanna be where the sugar daddies are. I wanna see.
Wow. Very slow moving. It's the wind too. There's great wind. I learned to watch the wind there. You can see like a shrub like 100 yards away, and it's moving. And you can follow the wind as it goes up and down the canyon until it reaches you.
Like you see particles it's carrying and stuff.
Mostly the movement of the bushes, the shrubs. Yeah. I had a lot of firsts in Death Valley. Like in a lot of ways, I think I'm still working on some of those insights or those experiences, which I had in my late teens, early 20s.
Isn't that kind of always the case though?
I think we've come up with our best ideas from 19 to 21.
Really?
I think so.
Oh boy, I'm in trouble then. I don't have very many ideas.
Well, you must have had some experiences that steered you in a particular direction.
Yeah, I guess I did. Yeah. But, until I was 21, my whole life was martial arts, just martial arts training. So anything that I was interested in to make that better. So I'd read like the Book of Five Rings, like Miyamoto Musashi. I've read a lot of psychology books. I read books on discipline. I read a lot of different books on how to control your mind under stress and things along those lines.
Yeah. Well, it was a formative time then, right?
Yeah. Yeah, it was definitely formative in that way.
Yeah, and you absorbed a lot.
Yeah. I definitely absorbed a lot out of that. It's just I had almost zero ideas outside of martial arts. I didn't care what was going on in the world. I was not paying attention to politics. I was not paying attention to world events. As long as we didn't go to war with Russia, all I wanted to do was train.
Yeah. Well, and look at you now.
Well, it opened up the door for a lot of other stuff, but at the time, if you had asked me questions, I would not have been a good person to talk to.
Yeah. What kind of questions would you have been able to answer back then?
Well, I knew nothing about the world. Like nothing. Like I knew nothing about other countries. I knew nothing about the way politics work. I had no interest in the economy. I didn't care at all. I didn't know how anything works. I don't know the rules to any sports.
Yeah.
I didn't know what's happening when a basketball game's going on unless the ball goes in the net. I don't know the rules of football. I didn't know anything. like most of my life, because it was all I was thinking about was martial arts when I was young.
Yeah, it's like being a monk almost.
In a lot of ways, it was.
Yeah.
Because the way we treated the gym. Like I remember I had this girlfriend in high school, and she wanted to fool around at the gym, and it was the dojang is what it's called. But I used to teach there, and I had keys, so I was there. And she wanted to fool around. I'm like, there's no way. We can't do anything here.
It's like a church or a temple.
Yeah. Like I was 17, 18 years old, however I was. Like kids are so horny. Like anytime you're alone, you get a chance that she wants to do it, and I was like, we can't do it here.
Right.
This is not possible. We can't do it in the locker room.
Right.
We can't do it in the premises. Like this is a church.
The ground you stand on is holy ground.
It wasn't to me,
Yeah.
because to me it was like this place this is where I'm serious. This is like a different place.
Uh-huh.
The rest of the world is the rest of the world, but in this place I control myself. I control the environment. I exist by the rules. There's very strict rules. You bow even if no one was around. I bowed to the flag every time I entered into the dojang.
To the flag.
Always.
Yeah, what did that
It was a Korean flag.
Yeah, so what did it represent?
Just represented respect
Respect for the country?
for the space that you're in. Like you're bowing before you enter the space. Like it didn't matter if it was a flag. I wasn't really bowing to South Korea. I was bowing to the idea that this is a very sacred space that I'm going into.
Yeah. In my Zen training over the years, we did a lot of bowing. To statues, to people, to images, to photographs. Before we ate, we would bow to the food. Yeah, so lots of bowing. It's an interesting experience to bow, to really kind of get yourself together and lower your head and be humble, like in the presence of something greater.
Yeah, I think it's beneficial for people. I think that kind of voluntary humility is very important. And if you can establish that as an ethic and sort of get it into your psychology.
Well, it's really important to be humble. I've been studying about humility. There's this great line. Humility is the ladder through which one can grasp every other good thing.
That is great.
Yeah. I try to read this once a week.
That really is great.
Yeah. And I'm going to be really humble. I might be the most humble person there ever was.
I like how you got that. You actually photocopied that.
Yeah.
Like it's got the darkness where the binder is in the center.
Yeah. It's a serious thing.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's awesome. What a great quote. Yeah, it's like to not be humble. It's like we like our sports stars to not be humble, and that's about it. Everybody else would appreciate a little humility. Even sports stars. Praise Jesus or something.
Well, can you be too humble?
Sure.
It would look like what?
Well, you can be too humble in the sense that you don't have confidence in your ability to do something that is sort of open, some open-ended. You don't know how it's going to turn out. Something where it's dangerous. You're going to take a risk. You have to be bold. You have to have enough confidence in yourself that you can navigate a thing that very few people navigate. If you choose to start your own business, you choose to quit what you're doing and go on a journey because you really feel compelled to have other life experiences. If you're too humble, you might not be willing to bet on yourself. And I think that would ultimately be bad.
Yeah, I think one of the things too about being too humble is you just suppress all of your feelings. You think you should have no feelings at all. In other words, responding to things in the world, insults or harm.
Right. So you can get in a bad relationship and have someone yelling at you all the time, and you just are humble and handle it.
Well, if you think you're humble, you might not be able to handle it, although you might pretend that you are.
Well, if you pretend long enough, you become humble. Yeah, you can become. You know what I always tell guys, and I say this whenever possible. You should aspire to be the person you pretend to be trying to get laid.
I hope everybody's doing well today. I want to welcome everybody to the Unimpressed Podcast. And today we have Robin Phoenix Johnson on the Unimpressed.
But who do you pretend to be when you're trying to get laid? Pretend to be really interesting, really nice, really kind. Just wouldn't it be easier to just be that person? But there's a success aspect of the courtship thing where you want to show your success. which is anti-humble.
Yeah.
But you got to be careful with doing it because then you look braggy. But you want to like show the person that you're dating that you're valuable. You're a person who can accomplish things. But so many people just put on a show when they're meeting people. They're dating. They put on a show. They pretend to be someone they're not. Like, wouldn't it be better if you just become that person?
Well, I think that's one of the advantages of Zoom is there's no pressure when you first meet someone.
Who's having Zoom dates? Are people doing that?
I've done it.
You free? It's a good move.
Yeah.
It's like almost like a podcast.
Well, and you wouldn't necessarily feel the pressure to go to bed right away.
Of course. And you don't feel the pressure to like have to get out of the situation. If it doesn't go well, you just gotta hang up. Bye.
Yeah, and
You can't beat somebody. It's rough. You don't want to just abandon them.
well, you can keep it low profile too. You could just be in the bathroom, sitting on the toilet.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. Keeping it low profile, keeping it casual. But like, if you look at the numbers, you're seeing the numbers of the way people met in the past versus today.
I think it's 25% meet online now and get married.
I think it's more than that.
Oh wow.
I think it's a really high percentage of people who meet today meet online. But the thing is, this was a video, so it showed like 1900s,
Yeah.
where like everybody sort of met either through family or through church or that kind of deal.
Yeah.
And then over time it becomes women enter the workplace, and then people are meeting people at work, and then the internet comes along and just
Yeah. What do you think of arranged marriages?
well, it sounds terrible. It sounds like you don't have any choice. And if you have domineering parents, then your parents are going to match you up with somebody else's kid because they're friends with this guy. And, this guy's son is looking for a wife, and you're a lady that has a dad that tells you what to do. And you're like, why?
Right.
I don't want to marry this guy. I don't even know this guy.
Oh, well, your parents would be taking straight shooters. You would want to.
If your parents are straight shooters, would they be doing an arranged marriage?
In certain cultures, yeah, there are a lot of arranged marriages, and I think they do tend to work out. I haven't looked at the data, but they couldn't do worse than the marriages, success rate now.
If you leave a little pad of paper and a pen just laying around so we can write you a note, but no one knows about it, what's really going on, I bet it'd be like a message in the bottle, like, come save me, help me. How's Linda doing over there? Oh, she loves it. She loves this arranged marriage. She can't go anywhere. Where's she gonna go? If you're in the kind of controlling culture that even considers an arranged marriage, it's a very strict culture. I'm not saying it's negative, but it's very strict. And if you have great parents and they're really wise in their choices, and you're in a culture that has an arranged marriage, and your parents are like super kind and generous, and they trust you and they love you and they think you're amazing, and then they want to hook you up with an amazing person, maybe it can work out. But generally, I think you should give people the freedom to do whatever they want to do. And maybe that lady never wants to get married. Maybe she's decided, I don't like how this is. I want to throw myself into my work. I want to travel the world. I want to do this. Well, you can do whatever the fuck you want to do in your ride.
Yeah, that wouldn't work in those kinds of cultures. No.
So I don't like that. I don't like that. I don't like anything where people are telling you what to do. And that's what an arrangement is. Someone's telling you what to do. If you can't say no, I don't know, maybe I'm ignorant. Okay, I should say, like, maybe an arranged marriage is a proposal. Like, they propose this arranged marriage, they both agree on it. Maybe, if that's what you're into.
I think that's the case, that if there's no chemistry at all and the woman or the guy says, forget it, I'm not interested, I think you're free to.
Well, I would hope so.
Yeah.
And I would guarantee you that's not always the case. Especially in some more restrictive parts of the world where women, are forced to, like, follow completely different rules than the men, which is a reality of the world we're living in today. There's parts of the world where they think in a very archaic way, and women are second-class citizens.
The Mideast, look at that place. It's just, it's a blaze.
Yeah.
It's a blaze.
Well, I have a good friend of mine who came on the podcast recently and was talking about his experiences in Afghanistan, how crazy it was there. And he's like, it's like you're going back in time 1,000 years. Like the way women are treated and children are treated, the amount of pedophiles and open molestation of boys and just
Yeah.
murder. And,
Why do you think, at least in particular, that Jerusalem is just such a hotbed? It's a point of contact and conflict for all three major religions: Islam, Christianity,
right.
and Judaism. All claim that small bit of land. I wonder what it is about that part of the world.
Well, it's got to be for the Bible, right? I mean, that's for the significance of it as holy land. You know, the concept of holy land is always so. If there's a place where it is literally in the Bible that this is the place where Jesus is going to return to, but this is going to be a place where people do battle over. Like you can't let the enemy control the place where Jesus comes back to. Because what if Jesus comes back and they immediately snuff them out because they're Islamists?
Right. Oh, well, it goes even further back than that. It was the location of the temple. The temple of the God of the Hebrews was built in Jerusalem.
Wow.
The first and the second.
How much history is there? Like, how far does it go back?
Well, Judaism began, maybe 4,000 years ago. And the first temple was built, oh gosh, I should know this. It stood for 400 years. Then it was destroyed. The second temple lasted around 400 years. It was destroyed in 70 CE, the second temple. When was the first temple in existence, Jamie?
So even if that's the timeline, so that we're looking at about 4,000 years.
All right.
Once upon a time,
Like Abraham, the first of the Hebrews, lived around 1800 BCE.
So 2000 BCE, the first known mentioned city. So that's 2000 before current era in Middle Kingdom Egyptian. How do you say that? Excretion text. What does that mean?
Execration test?
Execration.
Curses.
Curses.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, execrations are curses, extreme curses.
Really?
Yeah. If you execrate someone, you're really cursing.
Ancient Egyptian hieratic text listing the enemies of the pharaoh. Most often the enemies of Egyptian state are troublesome foreign neighbors. The texts were most often written upon statuettes of bound foreigners.
Yeah.
Bulls, or what was the other word it said there? It said bulls were...
Execration texts. Yeah.
or blocks of clay or stone. Wow.
Yeah, I wouldn't want to be on the receiving end of an Egyptian execration.
Jesus. How wild.
Yeah, so Jerusalem is an old city, and the temples were there a long time ago. And the location of the temples relates to dreams of Jacob, who was laying on the ground and on a stone, and made of a vow to God, the God of the Hebrews, who Jacob was communing with, to build a house of the Lord there. And so there's a long history of that part of the world being associated with the patriarchs and with the temple. Christianity has an association to Jerusalem because of Jesus. I'm not sure what the connection between Islam and Jerusalem is. It's clearly more recent.
Well, isn't there always this sort of situation where when someone really likes a thing, everybody wants it?
Yeah. Well, there's things called greed, envy, and jealousy. I've always liked the distinction among those three qualities.
Here it says, Jerusalem is revered by Muslims as the third holiest place on earth, and the pilgrimage to Jerusalem is viewed as an optional complement to the pilgrimage to Mecca, the Hajj. Unlike the Hajj, the pilgrimage to Jerusalem is undertaken individually at any time of the year.
Well, I've never been to Israel.
Now's not a good time.
No, and there's this thing called the Jerusalem complex.
Yeah, I've heard of that.
Yeah, you are like,
I think you're Messiah when you
right,
get there.
right. I'm the Messiah, right? So that might be a problem.
You can see how it could really be a problem if someone was inclined to that, headed in that direction.
Well, I think one of the problems with the current psychedelic scene is this messianism. There's going to heal everything. There'll be world peace. It'll be a utopia.
There's also, I think, a prevalence of this kind of spiritual narcissism.
Oh, good. I'm glad you see that.
Yeah,
it's important.
It's a prevalence of it. It seems like there's a lot of people that attach themselves to this thing and then use this to behave in a completely different way. They behave like they're instead of a person who's experiencing it like everybody else, they're like a leader, right? And I think there's a real danger in not expressing these thoughts to other people as pure facts. The way to live your life. Like, listen, you don't know how. Stop. Okay, there's ways you've learned to live your life better because of that. You should be just talking about those experiences. But when you start giving people instruction and how to do things, and then organizing people together, I think that's a symptom of this spiritual narcissism. That people, if you're attached to this, you're attached to something divine, which I think we both agree it is. You can imagine that you are divine, or you can project that you are divine. And I think there's a temptation to do that.
Well, I think it strengthens pre-existing, for example, personality traits, like you're saying. Like if you're a narcissistic person and you trip, you'll just get more enamored with yourself. More convinced that what you think is true.
That seems terrible.
Yeah. Well, that's one of the dark sides of psychedelics.
Well, that's weird, right? Because, as you were saying before, like there's people that want to think it's like a cure-all. And it's not necessarily. It's a tool. And if it was a cure-all, it would have already cured us. We would have been cured like thousands of years ago. People would have worked out all this nonsense.
Right. I think it just works on what's already in your head. You may not acknowledge it or think about it or even remember it, and your psychedelics will shed light on what's already there.
Well, how about the Vikings? Right?
What about
They would take mushrooms before they kill people.
the berserkers?
Yeah.
Yeah, the berserkers.
They-
Well, see, I mean, you could do
Yeah.
anything you
That's what I'm
already,
saying.
believe it.
Yeah, and something you're already inclined to believe. You believe that it's good to go slaughter people.
Well, I think that's one of the interesting things about him, Brian Nariski's book, is that I don't think these ideas came from the drugs. I think they were just made more manifest, more meaningful, more real than they were before, because of the drugs. So if you're a Viking and you want to go out and kill, if you're living in a religious community with certain beliefs and you want to believe them even more firmly, or practice more intensely, psychedelics can have that effect.
That makes sense.
It's a big win whenever we can keep plastic out of the ocean. It's even better when that old material is used to create new medical gear, especially where supplies are expensive and hard to find. I flew to Peru to meet a team that participated in Solve for Tomorrow, a program that...
I mean, again, like we're talking about, like the culture that you live in is that this is the view, whatever the constraints of that culture, this is the window in which you view the world. You view it through this culture. And you view it through these belief systems that you have sort of adopted over time.
Yeah, I think that's what's going on. That's what's going on with the beings in the DMT world. I don't think they are necessarily freestanding intelligences, but they're the way our culture, our personal culture and our larger culture, wrap in a visible form certain information, certain kinds of input, either from the outside world or in your own mind. So it's culture specific. I think the visions that you would see. I don't think they're like aliens from another planet. Although I kind of thought that in the beginning, but as time has gone on and I've heard more and more stories, I'm more inclined to believe these are simply projections, taking the garb of the personal, you.
Yeah, maybe. That's the problem. The problem is, yeah, maybe.
Yeah.
Because, like, you can go down that road and just decide, oh, no. What these are thoughts. And thoughts have a consciousness of their own. And we think of them as being independent, like they're just created by the human mind. But no, the human mind's probably tuning into these things, and they can appear as entities. I think thoughts might be a living thing.
Well, they
It sounds stupid to say out loud,
Yeah.
but the idea is everything that exists on Earth that humans have created, every single one of them came from an idea, which is weird.
Yeah.
Because it's had so much of an impact on the world.
Well, one of the ideas in the medieval philosophers was that thought thoughts are intermediaries between you and God. They're angels which are exchanged between you and some divine external source of information. So if you're thinking of how thoughts have directed the world's growth, I mean, you could even extrapolate to, well, maybe it's the divine plan for humanity.
Well, there's certainly something going on. If you objectively just step outside of human culture and just watch the world, it's certainly moving in a very specific direction, and that direction is very much technologically driven. There's something really crazy going on in a technological direction, and then all that stuff is coming from ideas. So ideas are popping into people's heads. They're over the course of hundreds, thousands of years. These ideas are propagated and given to other people, and they expand upon them. And then more ideas take place, and then more execution of these ideas, and it changes the landscape, it changes the ocean, it changes the seas. It's very, very weird.
Well, I think it's a case of cause and effect. Certain causes produce certain effects, and the rules of nature, let's say, or the rules of thought, like how the brain creates thought, they are regulated in a particular manner. There's an order to chemistry, certain chemical reactions occur for this or that reason. So it's as if the system is already set up to encourage certain behaviors, have certain ones, certain ideas formed, and other ones not formed. Cause and effect, if if something bad happens to you, it's because of what happened before. Something good happens to you, it's because of what happened before. So you learn from your experience to do things that result in you feeling better, positive outcome. So the system is developed that way. That, for example, if you get angry, you might stub your toe. That's how it works. And you're in pain and you think, oh, I shouldn't be angry. Or you're nice to someone and they're nice to you, as opposed to being mean to you. So, I think, the world, I think existence is set up in a certain way to encourage certain behaviors and discourage others. That's what's weird. I think, the technological stuff is pretty interesting now.
Yeah.
But it bespeaks like a larger phenomenon, which is how cause and effect has been set up.
Well, it's how cause and effect has been set up, but it's also there's a very weird competitive drive towards technological innovation that exists with people because it's attached to monetary gain, right? And the companies that are involved in the most technological, sophisticated work, whether it's AI or whether it's social media, like when you're programming things in giant scale, it's incredibly profitable. And the technology moves along with the profit, and ultimately it's got to make a being. It's pretty close to making a being.
Yeah. Well, I think the future lies as much in genetic engineering as well.
Oh yeah, it's not like it's binary.
Right.
It's not like it's one thing or nothing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think the biological and manipulation and the AI development's going to be. I think it's going to produce a hybrid.
100%. I think so too. I think that's the only way we live. I think we have to like accept the fact that they're here.
Right.
Join them. Because I think as biological meat vehicles, we're just too limited. Our evolution's too slow. You know, it's like, we're like, if you decided to run your entire business on a laptop from 1995, like, it's too slow. You can't do that anymore. Like, you have to catch up. If you want to be a part of this world today, and that's not that long, 29 years ago.
It's really important to collaborate in cardiology with other specialties. That provides a comprehensive care for my patients.
You know, we're very proud of the team we've built here at Catholic Health. It's a nice system for choosing the right path for the right patient. We can replace, for example, an aortic valve without opening the patient's chest. It's got a much quicker recovery, and that's a great thing to see somebody walk out of the hospital the day afterwards.
Just crazy. That's not that long ago. That laptop's useless.
Yeah, so in what kind of ways has AI impacted you? It hasn't
It has,
impacted.
yeah.
Yeah, it hasn't impacted.
Well, it has visually. I've seen a lot of like really wild things online. There's a bunch of them, like this one that I posted that some guy made. It's Donald Trump playing Creedence Clearwater Revival on a guitar.
Yeah.
Pull it up on my Instagram. So did you see this? And Kamala Harris is in it, and Macron or Justin Trudeau's in it. But it's so realistic. I mean, it's obviously not. Like, you look at it, like, I know it's not really them, but it's so close. It's weird.
Do you like Creedence?
Love Creedence. Yeah, I love Creedence. And it's Fortunate Son. So it's a banger song.
Yeah, that's the big song.
It's Donald Trump. See Donald Trump playing guitar. It's pretty recent. Scroll down. Keep going. There it is. Give me some bud. Look at Putin's on the drums. Kamala Harris is wearing a witch hat. Look at that. Come on, man. Give me volume. Oh, we can't? We get in trouble with the YouTube police. Look at that. Kim Jong-un. Biden. This is crazy. Look how good this is, though.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not quite good enough where you can't tell that it's AI generated, but it's unbelievably close.
Yeah.
Obama's the Joker. How bizarre.
Yeah.
So weird, right? Isn't it weird?
Yeah. It's scary though.
It is. And Jamie was just talking about Sora, that there's a new version of Sora that was released. Was it today?
I'm waiting for it to show up on my account, but yeah, everybody who's got
What is Sora?
Sora is SORA is a new video generator through AI. So you put in prompts. So show him the Japanese one. So this or what is there, new stuff?
There's all sorts of stuff, yeah.
Okay. So the Japanese one was incredible. So it's like, show me a street in Japan where the snow is falling. And, like a drone shot from overhead. So you see these people, and it looks entirely like a real scene.
Yeah, so this is
It looks absolutely like someone's
nine
filming.
months old, so it's just older stuff, but it's like a prompt for puppies in the snow.
Look at this.
Who doesn't like puppies?
Who doesn't like puppies? But that's fake. This is what's crazy. Like,
Yeah.
this is all generated by AI, and it's pretty indistinguishable.
Yeah.
I mean, look at this. This is all AI. Nuts.
Good thing I'm not gonna try this.
I know, you'd be like, what? Look at this. This is AI. That's insane. This is waves hitting the rocks.
Yeah.
A movie trailer. And, actors are fucked. Like, they're in real trouble. Because you can make movies like this now.
Well, so are writers.
Writers are fucked. Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't think writers are as fucked as actors are, though. Because some writers, like, there's the Quentin Tarantinos of the world that are just going to take turns because of just his own psychology that you're not going to take. Like, or Stephen King when he was younger. Like, I don't think you're ever going to be able to write Carrie on a computer. I think you need the human experience for some stuff that's creative, but not for the video.
Yeah, well, it touches upon creativity. Like, is creativity the difference between AI and humans?
Well, maybe it's not. And that's what's really scary, because we like to think that's the one thing that we have above AI. It's like, we're creative.
Right.
Well, yeah, great. Get it to write a Beatles song. What if it writes a way better Beatles song than the Beatles can ever write? What if it knows what's really going to move you? What if it writes a Sheryl Crow song that makes you cry? then you're fucked.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's Ex Machina. They didn't know. Did you ever see Ex Machina?
Yeah. Yeah, that was pretty
Well,
good.
they're one of my top 10 all-time favorite movies. Because it so rang true. Like, there was not a moment in that movie where I was like, bullshit, get out of here. It's so rang true that they would be able to manipulate you super easily, especially if you're a young man and you're, you know, awkward with women, and it's this perfect woman who just happens to be a robot. Like, who cares if she's a robot?
Yeah, well, that's funny. The version of The Thing by John Carpenter it was one of my favorite movies.
Oh, that was great.
Yeah, they're both body horror in a way.
Yeah, sort of, right? Because,
The robot
right.
isn't human. That's
Right.
horrible.
Right. It's pretending to be, though, and it's tricking you, just like The Thing.
Just like The Thing did.
Yeah. Yeah, the John Carpenter one is awesome.
Yeah. Yeah, like I've watched that twice, and both times I regretted it because every time I closed my eyes, there would be visions of these like mutations happening.
Yeah, and that was another one that was up in the freezing cold.
Yeah.
Trapped up there. There was a new one of that they did in, I think, the early 2000s, so it was pretty good.
Yeah, it was the prequel apparently. Yeah.
Was it?
Yeah, well, they used a lot of CGI rather than practical effects like the Carpenter version.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Which makes it, for whatever reason, the uncanny valley, you don't really think it's happening. It seems kind of fake.
Yeah.
When they use the visual effects, like I've had Rick Baker on the podcast.
Oh, really? Wow.
Yeah, and like things like the American Werewolf in London, he used like a real physical thing, and it looks like a physical thing. This robot or whatever it is that bites a person, this thing that he's pushing towards you. It looks real, and you only see it for a brief second, but your brain registers that's a physical thing. Whereas if you see the video, your brain registers, well, that looks cool, but I don't think it's really there.
Yeah, yes, it's a visual effect. It's not a practical effect.
Right, exactly. And you have to, there's a suspension of disbelief, right? Like, do you ever see I Am Legend? It's a good example of it.
Yeah.
I Am Legend was cool, but it was like 2000 what? When was that?
AAA, it's like calling Dad. If we had a quick response time and could repair your tire on the spot, this holiday season, get the gift of peace of mind with a AAA membership.
When was I Am Legend? 2004? Is that about right? 7? Okay. Back then they weren't that good. So there's a scene where the lions are in the park, like in the streets. Like there's lions out there because the civilization's collapsed, the zoo's open.
Yeah.
It looks so fake.
Yeah. Well, can you see like an intersection between AI and psychedelics? Like, could you give a robot LSD or something like it?
Well, no, what I was going to say is I think AI can give you some, and McKenna actually talked about this as well, that he believed that with virtual reality and computer simulations of trips, it will get to a point of sophistication where you can visually simulate exactly what a psychedelic trip is, and then there becomes this real possibility within our lifetime of recorded dreams. If you can record a dream, can you record a psychedelic state?
Sure.
Right.
Well, why not?
Right. If they can, I don't know how far away they are. Let's say they're 50 years away from being able to do something like this. But if they can map out all of the synapse in your brain and all of the different neurochemistry that's going on, if they can map that out and then attach it to some sort of some ability to visually record what you're experiencing, and they can then have something like through a neural implant, like Neuralink or something like that, and then completely put you in the exact state that this person is having when they're on 9 grams of mushrooms. That totally seems like, if we can send video through the sky and it lands on your phone, it looks perfect. I think that's doable. I think that's doable within X amount of years. It's not a thing like cloning people through a printer. Like, that's too far away. But I think the idea of recording your thoughts and then figuring out what causes different reactions inside people's mind, how your visual cortex interplays with all these different chemicals, that are going on inside of your brain?
Yeah, I think it could be a mass telepathic experience. Like if everybody was
Oh, yeah.
sharing the same experience at the same time.
Yeah, well, I think that definitely. I think that definitely, and definitely the possibility of a completely universal language, especially if we can enhance our brains. So if what they're talking about with Neuralink is, you know, multiple steps of of use, right? Multiple steps of the way they're going to have this. First, they're going to use it for people that are disabled. Like we had the guy in here was the very first Neuralink patient.
Oh, very cool.
It was very cool. He plays video games, and he's like his eyes are like an aimbot. So wherever he looks at it, shoots. Because like he can move his eye instead of hand-eye coordination. It's just eye coordination. So he knows exactly. So it's like instantaneous visuals on things. So he's like really good at video games with this, and that's better than not having that. So he plays better with the Neuralink than a person like myself would with just hand-eye coordination.
Yeah.
So you would imagine that if he can do that better, the next thing it's going to be able to do is restore vision. And if they can restore vision and then they can create artificial eyes, you can have things like night vision, you can have thermal imagery. You're going to be able to do things with your eyes that a biological eye can't do. And we might get to the point within, you know, our lifetime or our grandchildren's lifetime where people get rid of their eyes really quick because your eyes are bullshit. Like your eyes don't even see through walls. Like what do you do these stupid fucking biological eyes?
Yeah.
And then the next thing you know, you've got something that enhances your brain and gives you complete access to the internet instantaneously, just through the mind, just through this implant and through the mind. And then everybody gets together and says, listen, I would like to learn Swahili, I'd like to learn Portuguese, Chinese. I don't have the time. No one has the time to learn 190 languages or whatever there are out there. Why don't we all just create one universal language?
Would you think people would want that?
I don't think leaders would want that.
Yeah, because it would lead to, you know, everybody talking with everybody else.
I don't think Russia would be down with that. They'd probably censor it.
Well, there was a time, you know, back in, the Tower of Babel.
Yeah.
Everybody spoke one language, one tongue. Yeah, and you look what they did. They just built a big tower, and God looked down and said, you know, they have one language and one tongue, and look at what they do.
What do you think, like when you think of biblical stories?
I have NASH, a serious form of fatty liver disease that's scarring my liver. I was doing all I could, and it wasn't enough. Then I found a way forward.
Discover Restif.
I've spent far too much time speculating about the origins, but I'd like to know, like, what do you think that was?
Well, I think the stories could be seen as if they were real. You know, kind of like the DMT world. At a certain point, I had to look at the DMT world as if it were real. Otherwise, I would suggest it was, you know, something else. It was psychoanalytic, psychodynamic stuff. It was Jungian archetypes, which were written on drugs. But if I took it as an act of faith that it was a real world, I treated it as if it were real. And that's the way I approach the Bible stories, as if they were real. Like if you read it carefully, it's a very coherent picture of creation, of history, of the relationship between the spiritual and human worlds. If you just enter it rather than interpret it as something else, then it starts opening up in a way that is quite interesting. Like, for example, the flood, or for example, the Tower of Babel.
Yeah.
Like if you look at the preceding chapters after the flood, God told man to spread out, to populate the world, because it was just Noah and his family after the flood, and then they had children, and the directive was just was to repopulate the earth.
Right.
And instead, they built this tower. So people kind of wonder, why was the generation of the tower, punished, as it were, by being dispersed, and their languages were confused. So it's it's a cohesive whole. The stories build upon each other. There's history. Certain things occurred because of the behavior of certain people, certain ideas, certain practices. Yeah, so it isn't as if it were something else other than what you're reading. And that makes it important to understand the language it's written in, which is Hebrew. So if you really want to understand at least the Hebrew Bible, what some call the Old Testament, you really need to know the language, because you can make the translation for yourself. They say all translation is interpretation.
Right.
So if you know the language directly, you can then make your own interpretation.
Yeah, ancient Hebrew would be the most fascinating one to read it in.
It's incredible.
You could understand it.
Yeah.
Do you read it?
Yeah, I've been taught myself biblical Hebrew.
Wow. How long did that take?
Oh, I don't know, 16 years now.
That's incredible.
Well, you have these big old dictionaries, right?
Right.
These concordances. Yeah, and each of the words has a 3-letter root.
Right.
Yeah, and, just depending on context, they can mean a lot of different things.
Right.
And every time they appear for the first time, I would, scribble in the margin of the text, what this means. Yeah.
So you self-taught?
Yeah. Well, as a kid, I went to Hebrew school a few hours every week, and I learned conversational Hebrew and modern Hebrew. So that gave me a leg up when I started learning biblical Hebrew.
How different is biblical Hebrew from conversational Hebrew?
Very different. They're really Byzantine word forms and grammar, and words that appear once and never again in the biblical version of Hebrew. Right. One word appears once in the whole 22 books of text.
What's the word?
Oh, well, there's a number of those words.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, they're called hapaxes.
Whoa.
H-A-P-A-X. Yeah, they appear only one time in the text, so you have to figure out what that means.
Whoa. Can you guess because of context?
Yeah, you can guess because of context. You can also you can guess because of neighboring languages, like Hittite or Akkadian or Phoenician or Sumerian.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So it's an amazing language. I love the Hebrew language. That's one of the things that really got me hooked. It's very, it's extremely rational, but it's really telegraphic too. You could write one word that may encapsulate the meaning of 6 or 8 words. You could put together a biblical Hebrew word, for example, that might say, I found, let's see, boy, I really have to think that through, but you can combine a lot of ideas in one single word. That's the gist of it.
So when we're thinking about the world and we're using words, we're confined.
And how are the numbers looking? We're landing at a strong 70 SPF.
Thanks to JetBlue's low fares, Kayla's in vacation mode already.
By the way, the English language interprets the world.
Exactly. Yeah, and that's one of the things I love learning about biblical Hebrew is the grammatical forms open a window to parts of reality that just are ignored all of the time. There's a notion of the reflexive tense, which means you're doing something to yourself. So, for example, you might say, I sat down, or I sat myself down. And I sat myself down is the reflexive. And I sat down is what's called the perfect. Yeah, so the convolutions of grammar really open windows to views of relationships that were invisible before.
And if you were using this and you were reading these ancient stories and trying to interpret them, and then trying to break it down into English or Greek or Latin or whatever they did.
The first translation was Greek, and after that, Latin.
Have you ever done any reading of the Dead Sea Scrolls?
I haven't really. I read about them, but I haven't read any of the scrolls themselves. You know, one of my long-standing projects is translation and commentary on Genesis. But in Genesis, it's 1,200 pages so far.
Well,
Yeah, so I'm not sure how I'm going to ever get that published. But I think if I condense it to something more manageable, it would be an interesting read for people.
so what are you doing with it? What are you doing with this? Like, when you set out, what was your goal?
Well, it was an expedient kind of reaction. I was scribbling notes into the margins of my copy of the book of Genesis, and there was just no more room. So I said, I gotta put this into a Word file. Yeah, so I put it into a Word file, and it was pretty big. Yeah, so I'm still working through, well, there's all these commentaries to the text. You can't, know the score without a scorecard,
Right.
Without a program. Yeah, so there's a lot of very interesting and intelligent commentators, so those would be a lot of the notes that I would write down, and I was compiling all of these interesting perspectives on the text.
Wow. So are you reading it in ancient Hebrew?
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah, and I'm both doing my own translation and collating, the commentaries from 20 or 30 different commentators.
So when you're doing your own translating, are you comparing it to other translations and seeing how other people interpreted it?
Most of the other Jewish translations.
Are there a lot of straight from ancient Hebrew to English, or is it a lot of like to Greek and then to Latin and then to English? Like how are they usually done? Or how were they originally done?
Well, the first translation was to Aramaic, and then to Greek, and then I think to either Arabic or to Latin.
So the first translation was the Dead Sea Scrolls, as far as we know?
Well, the translation of the Bible itself, the 5 books, the first 5 books, and then the intervening 17, the prophets and whatnot, those were translated into different languages, book to book. The Dead Sea Scrolls are both books of the Bible with slight modifications, or completely independent kinds of texts.
How many of them are books of the Bible? Like how many of the stories?
I think Isaiah was found in the Dead Sea Caves. Maybe some Ezekiel, maybe some Leviticus. Like a number. But not the whole.
Was Ezekiel the same as it was in the Old Testament?
Mostly. There are modifications though with the Dead Sea translations versus the ones we read today.
Ezekiel's the wildest one.
Ezekiel really got me hooked on the whole DMT, endogenous spiritual experience kind of motif. Yeah, the visions of Ezekiel chapter 1.
Yeah.
I mean, there's this roaring sound, and he falls down, and an angel picks him up, and there's like blue ice above, and a roaring sound, and
a wheel within a wheel.
The wheels and the angels with the wings and the eyes on their wings. It's completely DMT-like.
Yeah.
I was really impressed with the overlap of the two sets of experiences.
The UFO community latches onto Ezekiel as well.
Yeah.
The depictions. I was on an image today. I should have saved it and sent it to Jamie. But it was angels. It was a visual interpretation, like a drawing of angels as described in the Bible. And these angels look like flying crafts. They look like flying geometric patterns.
Yeah. I'm trying to remember. It's a German guy, I think, who was really into.
Yeah, that's
the
not
visions
of what I saw today, but it was something like that. It was something like that. That was what it was, Jamie.
Yeah.
That's exactly what it was.
With the gyroscope.
Yeah. Like this is angels as described in the Bible.
Yeah, the four faces. A lion, a bear, a man, and an eagle. Who is that drawn by?
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Enos Balia, and it's my pleasure to be co-hosting this Twitter space alongside my very good friend Micah Meadowcroft. This is the second in a series of conversations we're doing with men and women engaged in the fight to defend the West and revitalize the American way of life. Today we're joined by truly an all-star lineup featuring Johnny Burtka,
The charity thing. Oh, Eric Von Daniken, that guy?
Yeah.
No, that can't be it. I think that's just an old art piece. See, go to the Wikipedia again, Jerry, so we get the description.
Didn't have anything, just a typical traditional depiction.
Okay, so it doesn't say who.
Yeah, like a wood cutting of some
That's
sort.
kind of how it was described. It's the Von Daniken thing is fascinating. I had lunch with him once.
Where?
Peter Thiel's house.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. So Eric Weinstein said, "Hey, we'd like you to come to this lunch we're going to do with Aaron Von Daniken. You know, a lot about that guy stuff." I'm like, "Oh, I know everything about that guy stuff. Like, I've seen Chariots of the Gods like fucking 10 times. I've watched 100 interviews with this guy. He's like all in on the idea that UFOs created all this stuff and they're all flying spacemen and
What who created the UFOs?
that's a real good question. He doesn't have that information.
Yeah, that's the first question.
But it's he's a very nice guy. I don't want to say anything bad about him, but I really enjoyed Chariots of the Gods. It's a fun movie. It's like, have you ever seen it?
No.
It's wonderful.
Yeah.
It's from like 1976. It's played in the movie theaters.
I remember when it came out.
What year is Chariots of the Gods? It's pretty old. But in it, everything being evidence that UFOs were here and a lot of like real sketchy connections. In my opinion. I'm more inclined to go the Graham Hancock, Randall Carlson route. I think there's a very sophisticated civilization that existed. Like, what year? 70s, damn. But I saw the movie when I was a kid.
Yeah.
But I think that there's real evidence that there was a sophisticated civilization. The Egyptian pyramids were enough. It's just like whatever the hell was going on there. There was an insane sophisticated civilization that existed 4,500 years ago. And probably went back quite a bit further than that. According to their hieroglyphs, went back 30,000 years.
Yeah.
And whatever was going on there was pretty incredible. And I think to just say that the aliens did it, it seems a little silly because there's no evidence that the aliens did it. There's evidence that there's people around back then.
Yeah, it's the case of Occam's razor. The most sensible explanation is probably the most likely.
Yeah, but then there's also so many stories of us being visited in almost every ancient culture.
Well, is that like being visited or just the experience of being visited?
Are they the same thing?
Well, one would be physically manifest and the other would just be manifest in the mind.
Well, I think a lot of people are starting to lean in this general direction of that perhaps we're trying to measure something that cannot be measured. Perhaps we're trying to put something on a scale that does not necessarily physically exist, but also has the attributes of something that physically exists, or it can manifest something that physically exists, but it's kind of an illusion. And the whole thing is kind of going on simultaneously, interdimensionally. And that this is why we struggle with our definitions and our overall acceptance of even the possibility of it being real. I think most people, when you talk to them about UFOs, if they don't have any skin in the game, they'll tell you they believe in UFOs, they'll tell you they think we've been visited because it's fun. But if you said to them, if you had to bet everything you have on the government has recovered crashed UFOs and that they visit us and they come from, the Pleiades star system and they've been here from the beginning of time, or there's weird conscious experiences, weird doors, portals of consciousness that open up that allow you to see things that might not necessarily be physically measurable, but are also real. And that these things are what everybody's talking about in these ancient religious stories. These things are things that people are talking about when they claim they've been abducted by UFOs and something landed. And And even like the physical remnants of these crafts, all of it might be just a part of this very bizarre psychic experiment that's going on. That as the mind expands its ability to understand other realms, and as the mind, like, you have to think of, you don't have to, but the way I think of it is like, we didn't used to be able to see. So it was an emerging trait of single-celled organisms, no sight. If you believe in evolution, it goes to multi-celled organisms, eventually goes to sight. So it's an emerging part of being a living thing, so you can see. And then language. We didn't used to be able to talk, now we talk freely. So there's an emerging thing, an ability that human beings have. And I think consciousness, psychic ability, precognition, remote viewing, all this stuff, for most people, that's a nonsense thought. But I think the thought is so prevalent in so many different cultures. Psychic phenomena is discussed ubiquitously in every corner of the world. And
this has been my first headlining tour. I didn't plan to do a tour. Like, I planned to just do a couple shows, just have fun, you know? I never expected it to do what it's done. My animals I miss, you know, I really miss them. But, like, getting to come home, Wookie, he screams. As soon as he sees me, he screams and comes running. But it's a lot of work, you know. A farm is a lot of work. All these animals are not easy or not cheap. It's not for the faint of heart. It really makes me appreciate it more when I'm gone because I'm like, this is where I belong, you know? We're at the last show of the tour before the special. We've done a lot of shows. We've been on tour for over a year and a half, and we're gonna do a show tonight in Evans, Georgia.
I think it's probably an emerging part of being a human being.
Well, do you think it's biologically based? It would need to be if it were, universal like that.
Chemically based, biologically based, I'm sure it probably has a lot to do with the diet of the creatures, right? I mean, if humans are consistently, if they're in the Amazon consistently taking ayahuasca and eating mushrooms and having rituals, you're probably in that realm more often than a regular person who eats McDonald's and drinks coffee at Starbucks and is stressed out because they work all day and is on SSRIs. You're probably not getting much of that at all.
There's a lot of telepathy, I think, that occurs in those kinds of cultures. You know, they share dreams and they share visions. Very interesting.
Well, you know that's what they tried to initially call harmony. Right. They discovered it. They tried to call it telepathy.
Telepathy, exactly. Right.
Yeah. Right. But it already existed under the definition, under the nomenclature, called it harmony. So they had to okay, well, it's already named too bad. Cool to call it telepathy.
Right. It was synthesized by somebody who got that name. Yeah.
But the people that were experiencing it then, when they wanted to name it telepathy, they wanted to name it that because they were experiencing telepathic.
Right.
They were having these weird experiences where they were sharing moments.
Shared visions.
Yeah.
Well, I think you can share visions just like you can share thoughts. You know, you can, or you share feelings. I think just a little more complex.
The thing about that is, if it's local, if there's other communication, right? If you're both in the same room, and like your friend says, "Not the pyramid," you know?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Or if you guys are nowhere near each other, you can't hear each other, you can't, and then you independently write down what you experienced, and then that person said that's exact, and they have the exact same thing. So they have no interaction with you, but they write down what they experienced or record it or what have you. But they're the same. they're having the same thing.
Yeah, do you know of Rupert Sheldrake's work?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've had Rupert on.
You have? Okay,
Yeah.
great. Yeah. So he's spoken to you about his
Morphic resonance.
His morphic resonance and these large-scale experiments with a lot of people from the public. They see they will make cold calls and people are expecting them. The dog knows it's going to come. The owner's going to come home when she's at a different time.
Yeah.
They can sense it already.
Yeah.
So there is, like awareness of existence. There seems to be. But I think it also must occur between people or things which have already got a strong relationship.
Yeah, like rats, when they teach them how to do a maze on the East Coast, they figure out how to do it quicker on the West Coast. You've seen those, right?
Yeah, and crystal formation. I was thinking about a dream I had once of my washing machine while I was traveling, and I had a dream about my washing machine that had stopped working, and I called home and I said, how's the washer? And she said it's broken. And I spoke to Rupert and I said, can you explain that? And he said, you must have a strong relationship to your washing machine.
Well,
yeah,
kind of makes sense.
I mean, cross species, cross life forms, almost communication. Well, I mean, do you think things would work out if there were universal language, or would we just build a tower of Babel all over again, or would we do something good for everyone?
I think we have the potential now, because if we can develop universal language, when you have real communication with people globally that's never existed before, instantaneous real communication through devices that's never existed. So that's a different factor when you consider a universal language. So if you have real communication with people, then you have universal language, and then here's the big one: the ability to detect deception. So if we really are all communicating through some sort of neural implant, and we really are doing this telepathically with a universal language, and we're experiencing each other's consciousness in a way that eliminates all possibility of deception. You could see envy, greed, anger. You can see these things in people's thoughts. If this becomes a possibility, and I think it's within the realm of science, I think it's within the realm of technological possibility. When that does happen, it will mean a very different thing to be a human being. And I think it could be one of the greatest things that's ever happened, because it would force us to only communicate at a higher level. There would be no benefit in bullshitting anymore. It would be the opposite. It would actually be detrimental. You would be ostracized. No one would want to communicate with you anymore.
Well, you'd be speaking the truth all the time.
All the time.
Yeah,
all the time.
There'd be no more lying.
No more lying. Impossible to lie, which I think is fascinating.
I don't think that would work.
Why not?
Well, I mean, there are some lies that are told for the sake of peace.
Right, but what are the parameters? Like, what are the confines of our society and of our just geopolitically, in terms of environments we exist in? Like, why? What lies?
You must try this black pepper trick that's making men almost double their rod size in a couple of weeks. This might sound weird, but your girlfriend or wife will thank you for watching this video. Go to your kitchen, grab a pinch of black pepper, and try this simple 10-second trick discovered by Johns Hopkins scientists that has already...
Would be good for peace. It wouldn't be better if everybody just knew exactly what was going on.
Well, if everybody knew exactly what was going on, that would be something different. But I think, in the meantime, there are some benefits to white lies.
Sure, as a human being,
right,
with a limited ability to communicate, and you don't want to hurt anybody's feelings. Sure, yeah, but if you're not a human being anymore, essentially, you're a cyborg, and you're connected through a neural link to the whole world. There's going to be zero benefit in lying.
Right. Well, you're suggesting a new species in there.
I am suggesting a new species in there.
Yeah. One of my favorite books is called First and Last Men, is by Olaf Stapledon. He's a British science fiction writer from the 1930s, 1940s. And he describes 19 species of man that extends over 2 billion years. And the final species is living on one of the outer planets. They live 35,000 years because that's how long it takes to learn everything. And every so often they all communicate telepathically around the whole globe. And it's like this big event, obviously. It happens every, 20,000 years.
Whoa.
Yeah, and they work up to it. Yes, it's an inspiring book, actually. It's one of my favorite.
You know what, another more controversial thought that I have about all this stuff is that ultimately the big bottleneck with information is going to be money. Because money right now is just ones and zeros, right? Money is just information. It's just, we agree that you have X amount of dollars here, we agree. You know, it's not a gold standard anymore, so it's not backed by anything, it's just a weird thing. So that's information. The trend with technology is we have more and more access to information, and ultimately we're going to have instantaneous access to information. But then we have this money thing. We have money, which is, and as people get better and better at cracking and coding, like you're not going to have encrypted money. You're not going to have encrypted info. It's not going to be possible, especially when quantum computing becomes ubiquitous. Like we're all operating off. It's all done. And if this happens at the same time, when we're all sharing our thoughts, impossible to lie, and then universal language and money. So then you have an even distribution of resources that's not based at all on capitalism. It's an abandonment of capitalism. But not in like a Marxist communist way, in sort of a practical utilitarian way to deal with the fact that everybody's communicating with everybody instantaneously. You can't have a guy who lives in a fucking castle and another guy who lives in a favela with a dirt floor and no food if we're all existing as one.
Well, it would require a change in human nature.
Yeah, well, human nature won't be human nature once this happens. Whatever you think of human nature as of now, it's like, you can tell me something, I don't know if you're telling me the truth. I can kind of guess, I have a feeling, but I don't know. So that makes progress slow.
Well, do you think that, that the technology will change human nature?
Of course.
Well,
yeah, definitely. Yeah. But just by design. If you're communicating telepathically and you can instantaneously detect it, it makes deception impossible, right? Because you're only able to express your thoughts.
Yeah, I have a feeling that won't be very popular.
Well, it won't be popular with the kind of humans that exist today.
Right. So will the human nature have to change first before there's an agreement to undertake that?
I think it'll just change with it. But one of the good things is we might be able to completely eliminate things like depression, suicidal thoughts, all mental illnesses. Maybe we can recognize that these are simply patterns in the way this thing operates. And if you just optimize it, it no longer has these patterns. If everybody has this increased level of dopamine,
for example.
Yeah. Like everybody just increased dopamine 300%.
Well, and increased oxytocin.
Yes. Everybody loves everybody.
Everybody loves everybody.
We're walking around in a state of tripping. We're all in ecstasy together. It's so low level where you're functional, you're not going to crash your car.
Right.
But you probably won't have cars anymore anyway. They'll be driving you around.
Well, an interesting thought is maybe you can increase levels of endogenous DMT every once in a while.
Sure, or on cue, like whenever you want it.
Yeah, I think the rapture may have a biological basis in that regard. Look like it's a timed event,
right?
Which is worldwide, that turns on the DMT synthesizing machinery, and everybody
connects all the minds together.
Yeah.
In a universal language.
As one big blowout.
And we emerge from our violent monkey past and become the next version of what it means to be a human being.
Well, which would be non-material.
At 2025, Kia Sorento, an impressive blend of capability, luxurious amenities, and advanced technology features inside.
The DMT world is non-material.
Right.
It's visual. So we might just transcend into some. Well, like, I think everybody, in this kind of scenario, everybody would drop dead.
But isn't it more than visual? It's visual in the sense that you experience it with your eyes, but your brain is experiencing something too. You just don't know what to do with it. You don't know where it goes. So you say it's visual, I'm seeing it. But you're not just seeing it, you're experiencing it.
Well, I think it's the world made like
Right, but whenever you have a visual with your eyes closed, it's tough to call it visual. I mean, obviously, it's interacting with that part of your brain.
Right. Well, you call it that after the fact.
It's
after you have that, when you're drinking.
Right. But have you ever opened your eyes on DMT? There was this video I was watching the other day online where these people, they put them on DMT and then they had lasers.
The red laser effect.
Yeah. Tell me about that.
Yeah, I just found out a couple of days ago.
You?
Yeah.
You just found out.
Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah.
I just found out a couple days ago.
Yeah. A friend is putting together a piece on that phenomenon, and he wanted my opinion.
Can you explain to people what they're experiencing?
Well, I think what happens, and this is just a very cursory assessment of the project, but people smoke DMT, and then they project this white, or they project a red laser onto the wall. And if you look very carefully at it, from what I understand, you can see the matrix.
You see code in red laser.
Yeah. Can we take that bit of a break?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
It's not that he doesn't have faults. He most certainly has faults. But they all have faults. Because they had control of the media and they turned it into something that he wasn't just 10 years ago. Very strange how it was done.
Yeah.
And we all were a victim of it. Everybody, we don't want to admit he has any positive qualities, so you get labeled a Nazi.
Yeah, well, and why do you think that happened?
Well, because he is an outsider, and he is someone who did not come through the political system, so doesn't have all these relationships and all of these intertwined conflictions with corporations and all these different businesses that have paid for his campaign. The campaign self-financed. And then you have someone who didn't play the game to get in there. And you can't have that. You can't have that. If you have that, and this guy doesn't want wars, he doesn't want us giving money to foreign companies and foreign countries and propping up dictators, we can't have that. We need that. That's part of the American machine. That's how it works.
The military industrial complex.
It's real.
Yeah, it's been real for a long time.
I mean, when Eisenhower talks about it on television at the end of his term, it's kind of a crazy moment in history that was just broadcast on television and wasn't really revisited until YouTube came around.
It was ignored.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was, conveniently ignored.
Yeah. Yeah, I think with RFK Jr., when he gets in, we have a real possibility of opening up psychedelic treatment for veterans, which I think is the best way to start it off, because they're the most deserving of it. They're the people we ask of the most, and there's been a lot of people that have had some pretty profound changes take place because of psychedelic experiences.
I think it's going to need to be scaled up. And
yes.
What that scaling up looks like still isn't really worked out.
Right.
I think they should develop special clinics, where you wouldn't actually be doing research and you wouldn't need incredibly strong data to justify that kind of treatment. You would just need an indication that it was helpful.
Right.
And a specialized therapist, pure drug. It wouldn't be Schedule 1 kind of super restrictive research, but it wouldn't be just Wild West and anything goes. I think there needs to be some kind of middle institutional development where a lot of people can go who would benefit from psychedelic assisted therapy. And that makes sense. So many homeless people among veterans, like in Albuquerque, there's an enormous homeless population. A large number of immigrants. They're really not treated all that well.
No, they're not. And it's not like this idea of not having robust clinical research to show efficacy, like on a physiological level. That doesn't really exist with SSRIs anyway, and they're already prescribing them. Like, there's so much anecdotal stories, so many of them, of guys going to Mexico, taking Ibogaine, taking DMT, psilocybin experiences, and coming back and just like sorting their life out.
It's amazing. A couple of weeks ago, we were at a conference up in Denver, and I was, doing some book signing. Some guy, my generation, it came up to me, and he told the story after he returned from Vietnam. He was using basically every drug in a bad way, bad drugs in a bad way, and he smoked DMT one day, stopped using everything. He even moved to live across the street from a liquor store to be able to, demonstrate that he had that willpower that had just changed with what DMT experienced to resist any future drinking.
Wow.
Yeah, so those kinds of stories you just can't ignore.
There's too many of them, and I have personal friends that have gone through it.
Damn, it's a nice night.
By itself, or would you like it with other people?
New deal. One new deal.
It's buy two, get two free.
Okay.
Add one more to this order.
Yeah.
And changed their life, quit drinking, got their shit together, became like a much nicer person. Like, sometimes people are just burdened by the stress of what they've experienced, especially war, which is the most horrific thing that people can experience. You're burdened by this. And sometimes they don't know how to shut those demons off. They don't know how to shut it off. And something can come along, whether it's a DMT experience, ayahuasca, Ibogaine. There's a bunch of different anecdotal stories that I've heard of different things. I was reading something about Colorado today. Colorado is doing some new psilocybin research thing where they're opening up clinics now.
Yeah. They're going to be opening up these healing clinics, which will be more or less based on the Oregon model. You license the therapists. You have to account for your supply of drugs and your quality control, those kinds of things.
I would worry about that. Like, we're talking about like control, and that's where you would open up the door to potential spiritual narcissism. Like, you can see someone start a nice cult that way.
Well,
he controls the mushrooms.
Who controls the mushrooms? Well, it wouldn't be the first time that the psychedelic, cults, emerged. Yeah. Well, are you familiar with the Rajneesh story?
Which one's that?
In Antelope, Oregon, there was this.
Oh yeah. Of course, Wild Country.
Wild Country. Well,
I love that one.
Yeah.
That's Oso.
That's Osho. Oso. Osho.
Osho.
Yeah.
Osho or Oso?
I think Osho.
You got me confused. I said Oso. Which one? Osho. Osho. He's my favorite.
Yeah.
He's like, but the people
Bhagwan.
are retarded.
Yeah.
That's that guy.
Yeah, that guy.
Osho. I read his book. Because I watched Wild Country, I was so blown away by it that I read his book. And it's actually, like, very interesting. I mean, I think he's written more than one book. I forget which one I have. But I read it a few years back, and I was like, this is a fascinating person. Like, he doesn't seem like a cult leader.
What's the main message that he's trying to get across?
Well, it's just sort of like a guidebook for life. Like, see if you pull up his books, I'll tell you which one it was. Look at see if it is. Arrow. One would always wonder, it's one of the few books I have that's a physical copy too. I'd have to go back and look at it.
You kind of wonder if these are transcriptions of his talks or things that other people helped him write, or things that other people wrote for him.
For the people, by the people. They did the dirty thing there. They took all those homeless people and they brought them to so they can count as voters, and then they kicked them out.
Yeah. What are they trying to poison the city council or something?
They poisoned everybody. They poisoned people when they were trying to take over politically. But that was that one woman. What was her name? Rita? Was that her name? The one woman who got in trouble. She was kind of fun in the cult.
Well, I spent some time in a Zen monastery. I was actually, as a young man, thinking of becoming a monk.
How long did you spend there?
Not that long, because my depression lifted while I was there. I think my motivation to become a monk was because of how depressed I was. I didn't think I was able to really function any other way than in a cloister, more or less. Yeah, but then my depression cleared and I went back to school. Yeah, but I stayed associated with him for over 20 years and went up there.
What do you attribute your depression lifting to?
Well, it was, I think it was a minor enlightenment experience. That's not to say that I'm enlightened or anything, but if you look at the phenomenology of the enlightenment experience, it's on a scale. There's the gradations like the major one, and smaller little ones. Yeah, I was walking back from a work assignment. They were asked, one thing they liked you doing was because I was a medical student back then, thought I was hot shit. I was always given the worst assignments, the worst work assignments, like clean the toilets or knock down this hill. So one day they said, can you move that hill? And so I had my shovel and my pick. I was 22 years old or whatnot. Yeah, and I was coming back from the work project, and my depression just lifted right off my shoulders. It was the damnedest thing. It was about 15, 30 seconds or so. I thought, oh, that's pretty interesting. Yeah, and the end of the day came, and I woke up the next morning, and I was still feeling pretty good. So I was indebted for helping pull me out of that bad mood. It was a bad mood, too. I had to drop out of school.
Was it directly after you had to move to Hill?
It was on the way back to the tuition. Yeah.
Did you do anything before that physically?
I don't remember what my other work assignment was. It was an afternoon work assignment, as I remember.
I mean, in your life. Did you ever do any hard labor?
Oh.
Ever work out? Ever take a sport?
Yeah, I ran track.
Ran track?
It was the sprints, though, so it was just a sudden burst of energy. It wasn't anything prolonged.
You're not a child, you're a man, so stop wearing so many layers to go outside. And get the Bearskin Tactical Hoodie 4.0, the 10-pocket tactical micro-fleece hoodie that blocks wind, repels rain, and regulates heat for incredible comfort, wherever you are. Because the average hoodie made these days is weak, flimsy, and has one weird kangaroo pocket in the front. And listen, you're not a kangaroo, you're a man. Thousands of men around the world already love wearing the Bearskin hoodie instead of their regular hoodies. Why? Because sure, your average hoodie provides decent.
I've done a lot of strenuous hiking and backpacking.
The sprinting, when you were doing that, were you particularly happy or depressed when you were doing that?
No. Sprinting itself is great.
I don't mean that. I mean during the time period where you were participating in sprinting, did you have any depression?
No. Well, I suppose,
teen angst.
Yeah, teenager angst, growing up in the San Fernando Valley.
Right, that everybody has.
Right.
Yeah. I had that while I was doing martial arts. It's not like it cures it. But I do know personally, me, if I go long periods of time where I don't exercise, I get depressed. I don't feel good. I feel shitty. I feel off. I think our bodies, put vanity aside, because I think a lot of very intelligent people associate exercise with vanity, but I think your body has a physical requirement to achieve like homeostasis, to achieve balance, to achieve like an ability to kind of like exist in a neutral place. You're always affected by the world, but the more neutral you are, the better. Like the more you exist, and you're not like constantly wound up about something, or constantly upset about this, or constantly fearing that, or being overwhelmed with anxiety. I think some of that is in response to a lack of physical movement. I think the body is designed to exist in a very primal world that doesn't exist anymore. And so because the body had a lot of requirements 10,000, 15,000 years ago, I think we're still programmed in that general way. And that the only way to keep a balance of the mind and the body together for me is to constantly engage in exercise, rigorous exercise.
Yeah, what kind of diet do you follow?
Mostly I eat meat. Mostly meat.
Mostly meat.
Yeah. Yeah, I eat beef. I eat a lot of wild game, a lot of elk. I eat deer and wild pigs. I do eat some vegetables sometimes, but only if I feel like it.
Yeah.
I don't eat them for nutrition. I eat fruit, and I take a lot of vitamins.
Yeah, and no grains.
I mean, I'll eat greens every now and then. I'll have like a salad if I feel like having a salad, but I don't think I'm having a salad for health. You know, I think...
it's for taste.
Yeah, it's for just I like to eat stuff.
Yeah, do you like pretzels? Yeah, I love pretzels. It's my
They're kind of bullshit, but I was at the mall the other day and walked by, what is it, Annie's Pretzels? Is that what it is?
Good.
It's crack. I didn't eat one, but that smell, the smell in the air was like, there was a giant ass line, a huge line. There's no line for anything else in that food court, but that pretzel line.
There must be something in those pretzels.
Deliciousness.
Yeah, MDMA.
They're so good. They're so good. No, there's no MDMA. It's just delicious. You feel terrible right after you ate it. Like, what did I do?
That's like MDMA.
Yeah, but there's no 5-HTP that you can take. It's going to help you.
Right.
The down you feel off of a pretzel sometimes is worth it though, because they're so delicious. Especially the ones that wrap a hot dog in the pretzel.
Yeah. A month or two ago, I was at Union Station in Los Angeles, and there was a stand just selling, the encased hot dogs and pretzels. You have to fly up Paramount to this one.
They're so good though, right? It's delicious. It's terrible for you. So good though.
We took an Amtrak back from Union Station to Albuquerque. Like an overnight.
How's that?
Well, it was quaint, but it wasn't like efficient.
It's too slow.
Pretty slow, pretty noisy.
And you start thinking, I could on a plane. I'd already been there.
Right, it would have been just 2 hours rather than whatever it was, 14 or so.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, look at European trains though. You can really have fun on a European train. They're comfy, they're on time, good food, good coffee.
What's the fastest trains? Japan? Do they have the bullet trains?
I think the Chinese or the Japanese are really, really fast.
Yeah. That's one of the things that Elon was trying to do with America. They were trying to put bullet trains that would take you from San Francisco to New York City in like a few hours.
Yeah, I mean, there should be no reason not to do that.
The only reason would,
other than the automobile industry.
Well, also tracks. Like, who's watching those tracks? You're going 1,000 miles an hour or whatever you're going. Who's watching the tracks? Who's making sure someone doesn't put something on the tracks?
Right. That's even a concern now, but that would certainly be if people are going 1,000 miles an hour.
Yeah, like, I'm amazed at how few derailments there are. If you think about how many trains are flying back and forth.
Yeah. Well, I lived in Gallup, New Mexico for years, and it's a train town, more or less. And there were, I think, there were 3 trains came through every hour, 24/7. So,
wow.
70 trains, 75 trains every day would go through town, and there were very few derailments.
That's crazy.
Yeah, they're pretty good.
But you're constantly waiting for trains then. Like, there's always those things that come down, ding, 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 ding.
Yeah.
Sit there, wait while the train flies by.
Yeah, it was a point of controversy in that little town. Like, were they going to build a tunnel underneath or a bridge over? Yeah. Yeah. The business folks in the downtown area. And it would be noisy too. The trains would go by 35 miles an hour, and they're big trains. Like, some of the cargo trains are more than a mile long, and they could just take forever to cross 2nd and 3rd Street, and you're just stuck there.
Yeah, fuck that.
Right. Well,
I just wouldn't want to be in a place that's that noisy, especially if you're in New Mexico. It's kind of quiet.
Well, when your phone's rapping, when the trains go by, they honk their horns. Like they have to do 3, then 2, then 3, then 2.
Well, there's some apartments in New York City, right, where the apartment building's there, and the train's going right in front of the apartment building.
Exactly.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Like, how cheap is that rent? Agree to that.
Yeah. And the long-term effects on your mental and physical health.
Yeah. Well, whenever someone's crazy in a movie, they always live there. Just live like right where the train is. You know? It kind of accentuates the craziness, right? They get no rest.
I know. Well, my mom's mom lived in a little town in western Pennsylvania, and the coal trains would would pass through her backyard, basically. Like, there's a little hill in her backyard and the train tracks. And I really enjoyed just sitting there as the trains went by, smelling the exhaust. That was something. That was an early manifestation of my...
Look at this. Whoa, that's crazy. It goes through the building. Imagine if you're above that trying to sleep. Fuck out of here.
Yeah.
That's nuts.
That's not real.
Whoa, that can't be real.
Yeah, that can't be real. Yeah, they couldn't.
AAA, it's like calling dad. If you had a quick response time, you could repair your tire on the spot. This holiday season, get a gift of peace of mind.
Find anybody to live there.
You could.
Well, I guess prisoners,
Somebody would agree.
it could be a jail or a prison.
Yeah, or just a crazy person that just thinks that's a good idea. You know? A lot of people like to live different ways.
There are markets right on the train line.
Whoa.
They have to like pick up the stuff when it comes through.
What?
That's efficient.
So they quickly grab their baskets and stuff and pull it out of the way?
Yeah, when people are walking on the train track.
That's nuts. That is crazy.
And rather than move, they just figure it out.
Wow. 8 times a day, 7 days a week. Wow.
Put things away every 3 minutes.
Oh, really?
Wow.
Yeah.
How many dogs do they lose every year?
Well, suicides too.
I'm sure.
Lots of people that, like at the small town that I was living in, that would be like a regular thing, and people would lay down on the tracks and were having a bad day.
Imagine if we can cure that with Elon Musk's Neuralink. Everybody's signed up.
Yeah, on the reservation, it might be hard to get the word out there.
Yeah, they probably don't want to listen anyway. They probably want you to take it so that you all go extinct. They'll take over again.
Some crazy white man idea.
I mean, these are people that were hesitant to agree to get photographed. You know, they're going to be the last adopters of this stupid fucking brain implant.
Yeah.
These stupid white people are doing.
Well, so Gallup is like on the reservation, pretty much the Navajo reservation. Yeah, and most of the population is native. So it was pretty interesting living among the natives for 14 years. And their view of white people is that they're noisy, they're superficial, and they're kind of dumb.
Well, there's plenty of examples that would support that if you were inclined to be, less charitable.
Yeah.
And make a rash generalization about white people.
Well, I learned to be, quiet there because there isn't anything to do, and there aren't that many people. So
we were talking about this before. One of the big reasons you moved out of there was it's hard to get healthcare, right? Like
the healthcare was rather poor. Yeah, like I came down with pneumonia. This is 2014. And I didn't receive the best care and ended up getting C. diff because of all the antibiotics.
What is that?
It's this horrible diarrhea. It's like a fatal diarrhea. I think 30,000 people in the country die every year from C. diff.
Whoa.
Yeah, and I was battling that. The quality of the care was just so poor that I was taking notes. And I thought, if I live through this, I'm going to write about it. And so that is the basis of that autobiographical novel I wrote a few years ago. Joseph Levy Escapes Death. Yeah, it's an account of...
I remember I was worried about you, but I didn't want to pry. Because we had gone back and forth in an email, and you were just telling me your health was not well.
Oh, yeah. We were talking about the possibility of me being on your show.
Yeah.
Just sick, I can't travel.
Yeah. Generally, people don't bounce back when they say they're that sick. I was really worried about you. But I didn't want to, I just didn't know, how does one, I don't want to pry. I felt like if you want to tell me about what's going on, you tell me about what's going on.
Yeah, it was a really hard time. Yeah, and I bounced back. You
look great.
Yeah.
You look better than ever, actually.
Oh, thanks.
Really do.
You too. Yeah, I swore I would bounce back and feel even better than I did, before I got sick. So, yeah, but it was a joy. Well, it did strengthen my belief in God, speaking of God. Like, I wasn't quite, that, God was not quite ready to take me. And I wanted to become, closer to that power that let me live.
And did you feel like, because God was not, God did not want to take you, did you feel like you had work to do?
Yeah. I had to get back to work. I had to continue being useful. Like I just couldn't rest on my laurels.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, if you had called me and you said, how's it going, I'd say bad.
Sounds like it was real bad.
Yeah.
Well, that's why I was worried.
Yeah.
Because, I'm just too used to getting those kind of emails and then you hear that someone passed away.
Oh, yeah, I know. And, in my generation, it's, kind of accelerating.
Yeah.
Guys, do something special for your wife this year with a gift that she'll cherish forever. It says, to my wife, I didn't marry you so that I could live with you. I married you because I can't live without you. I may not be your first date, your first kiss, or your first love, but I just want to be your last everything. I squeezed this necklace really tight and filled it with my love and light. If I'm ever not here and you need a hug, just hold this close and feel my love. Love, your husband. This necklace is absolutely breathtaking, elegant, and unique. It comes in a premium wooden mahogany box with a soft LED light that makes it shine beautifully. The heartfelt message included says everything she deserves to hear. Stuck?
Yeah. So when you did finally get out of this, how long was like the actual sick period? How long was the period where you were really hurting?
Well, the pneumonia was about 10 days, and the C. diff started about 10 days after that, and went on for 6 weeks.
Whoa.
Yeah, I lost 15 pounds.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Then you got it to begin with.
Yeah, I didn't have 15 pounds to lose. So, yeah, I found a good psychotherapist. I went in there and fell asleep the first visit. I said, I'm really tired. I feel really weak. And that was it. And I started working with her for like the next 4 years. Yeah, because obviously things had gotten so dire because I wasn't taking care of myself.
Right.
So I had to kind of get to the bottom of that. Yeah, yes, it took another maybe 7 months before I started to feel like my strength back and my brain functioning again. One turning point is my interest in some of your listeners is I got vaccinated for the flu in like January, which was 9 months after this all started. And it was the most painful vaccination I'd ever had. It was beyond 10. It wasn't even throbbing. It was just constant, like beyond any pain in my arm I'd ever felt.
How long did it last?
12 hours, and I woke up feeling great.
Wow.
Like the best I had felt in almost a year.
So after 12 hours, just wore off?
I went to bed thinking, God, I hope this wears off, or else I'm going to have to get some attention. Yeah, it just wore off, and I felt pretty darn good the next morning.
How weird.
Very weird. I guess my immune system just really needed to just get socked or something. Yeah. And it seemed to have, done the trick.
Just strange that you'd have like a local pain that's that intense. Generally don't hear about that.
Yeah, it was just at the vaccination site. Very interesting.
Yeah, weird.
Do you get vaccinated? This would be a personal question.
No, you can ask me.
Yeah.
No. I almost got vaccinated for COVID.
Right, I was wondering.
I was totally willing to do it. It was the early days of the pandemic, and the UFC had allocated about, I think it was 150 or so doses for all their employees because they were running shows during the pandemic when everyone was terrified of it. So I go to Vegas to do this UFC event, and I had a test before I leave, then you fly, you test when you get there, and they're really strict with their protocols, make sure that no one was sick. When people were sick, like if someone, like a fighter's corner man was sick, everyone was kicked off. All those people were off. The fighter couldn't compete even if he was negative.
Oh, okay.
Because he had been exposed.
Right.
So they were real strict. And so they said, we have these vaccines if you want one. They didn't tell me I had to take it, but they said, no. I said, sure. I said, can I get it right before the fights? And they said, sure. And they didn't know that I had to go to the actual clinic or the hospital. So I contacted the doctor. I said, hey, I'm here. Can you vaccinate me before the show? He said, you actually have to go to the clinic on Monday. Can you stay till Monday? I said, I can't, but I'll be back in 2 weeks for the next event. So during the time where I was gonna get shot, and then 2 weeks later, they pulled it. So the Johnson & Johnson vaccine got pulled because people were getting blood clots. And so then 2 people that I knew that did get it had strokes. I don't know if it was a coincidence, but it seemed rather odd. And then I started getting nervous. And so then I started reading different things by different scientists that had opposing perspectives on both the efficacy and the safety of the vaccine. And then I got COVID. And then when I got COVID, I got over it really quickly. And then I got attacked on CNN. So I was like, okay, what's going on here? Like, why are you guys upset that I took a certain medicine and got better? I've never even heard of such a thing. And they started labeling it, this ivermectin, as a horse dewormer, which is crazy, because it won the Nobel Prize for people. So it was like I was watching this bizarre thing take place in scale on mass media against me. But against me in the most preposterous way possible, because I was healthy. I got better quick. Like in 3 days, I was better and I made a video. In 6 days, I was working out like full steam. I didn't get sick for long at all. And I listed a bunch of different medications that I took. But for whatever reason, they labeled ivermectin as the thing that needed to be attacked. And they all in lockstep. MSNBC, CNN, newspapers, all of them making these ridiculous statements that I was taking veterinary medicine. I got medicine from a doctor, from a pharmacy, an actual human doctor, medication for humans, and more importantly, I got better, like really quick. Like, what is happening here? This is the strangest thing I've ever seen in my life. It was like this mass psychosis that was propagated by the media, who were only intent on keeping everyone terrified and offering only one solution. And that solution just...
It's here. This is it. The federal government is coming out with some new regulations that allows you to buy real estate with less money down than ever before. Less than 5%. I'll show you how to do it. With no money down, I'll show you how to do it with no credit. I'll show you how to do it on 2 units, 4 units, 40 units. I'll show you how to do it on single-family homes. And I'm going to show you what not to do, by the way. My team's going to put a link below in this emergency. Okay, I come out of the ocean to tell you about it. You don't need to know anything right now except that you're committed to taking advantage of it for you and your family. It's the biggest correction I believe in my lifetime. It's going to be next 2008. If you'd have bought in 2008, 9, and 10, you'd be so rich today. You'd be doing what I'm doing right now. Spending with the kids in the ocean on the This is my day at the office now. Why? Because I bought real estate during a correction. The cash flow to my family, whether I work or not, appreciates regardless of what the economy does, and protects me and my family against this awful thing called inflation and the destruction of the U.S. dollar. Woo. I'm going to do a free training. It's about 45 minutes long, maybe 60 minutes long. Click the link below. My guys will give you a link to it. Don't miss this. Okay, don't miss this. If you do, it's like letting your family drown. Don't let them drown. The content presented in the webinar is intended to be used for educational and informational purposes only. The investment involves great risk, and there's no guarantee of performance or results.
I have NASH, a serious form of fatty liver disease that's scarring my liver. I was doing all I could, and it wasn't enough. Then I found a way forward.
Discover Resdifra, the first and only treatment for NASH with moderate to advanced liver scarring without cirrhosis. It works directly in the liver to help reduce scarring and reduce NASH.
Before taking, tell your doctor about liver or gallbladder problems, or if you're pregnant, breastfeeding, or plan to be. Serious side effects include liver.
Coincidentally, happened to be insanely profitable.
Yeah, it's hard to figure.
It was weird to go through. It's very, very weird to go through. So, needless to say, I have become very skeptical about a lot of narratives that are expressed constantly without any real examination.
Well, do you think they're going after you or going after the ivermectin?
Going after the ivermectin, 100%. I was a simple, easy to make fun of person who did a ridiculous thing, and that's why they were able to say horse dewormer. You know, but it's such a dumb thing to say because it was a playbook that would have been really effective in 1998. You could have gotten that done in 1998. The problem is there's too much information that's available. And when you're mocking a person for taking a drug that a human being won the Nobel Prize for in like 2015 for its use in humans, like that seems insane. Also, you're knocking people taking off-label medication under the advice of a trained physician. What? Like, what's going on? And who are these people that are doing this? These talking heads on CNN? Why are they all agreeing? How come not one person is saying, hey, what is the reason why ivermectin would be taken in the first place? Oh, it stops viral replication in vitro? Well, maybe there's some reason to use this. Maybe these doctors are correct. All these anecdotal stories about people taking it and then getting better quickly. Like, is there anything to this? But there was none of that in the media because they are sponsored by pharmaceutical drug companies who clearly had marching orders.
Yeah, what do you make of this virus that's killing folks in the Congo?
Jesus, who knows?
Yeah.
I don't know anything about it.
Yeah. 170 people have died. They don't know what it is. Some weird African virus.
Fun.
Yeah.
See if Bill Gates did visit there lately.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm terrified of pandemics for sure. That one wasn't one to be terrified of, and they made us terrified of it, which makes me terrified.
Yeah.
Because that was one where they, we talked about this in the podcast, where they made fun of Donald Trump because he was saying it's less than 1% of the people who get it die, and then CNN was mocking him, saying it's 3.4%, it's 3.4%. You know, it was considerably less than 1%. He was right. But they had marching orders. And his marching orders was to scare the shit out of people and to tell them to get vaccinated.
It was a scary time, that's for sure. Yeah, they closed down the town that I was living in back in California. It was closed down. You couldn't go into it if you didn't live there.
God, it's so weird.
For 9 days.
Well, 9 days better than California. California, they did a whole year and a half of like complete restrictions. They were stopping outdoor dining just arbitrarily. I had a friend and his brother works for the state, and he said to the lady who was in charge of it, he said, why are you stopping outdoor dining? There's no evidence that there's spread through outdoor dining. And she said it's the optics. The optics. Like, we're going to shut businesses down for optics because they had to show that they're doing something because there's like a noticeable spread that's being reported in the media.
Yeah, that's called virtue signaling, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it's also the real problem is their jobs are not dependent upon their society functioning. They get paid no matter what. So if society crumbles and all these businesses, they lost 70% of their restaurants at one point in time. 70% just went under. That's insane to continue a practice like that. Especially where within 6 months, they should have known that it wasn't as fatal as everybody said it was. When they already had the data in about how come all these people that are dying, they all have like significant amount of comorbidities. How come all these people that are dying are over the age of 80? How come? It doesn't mean fuck those people. It means protect those people, but let everybody else get back to work. Like, you just have control of these people, and you're continuing to enforce this control while their lives are destroyed. How many people turned to drugs? How many people committed suicide because they lost everything completely out of their power? How many lives were lost? How many kids had their childhood stripped away from them and have significant learning problems, not just because they didn't go to school, but because even when they went to school, they had to wear a mask. The whole reading people's lips and hearing sounds come out, everything was weird. Reading faces was weird. If you're a toddler and your experience is going through the first couple of years of your schooling and your preschool with fucking masks on, like, what is that? What do we do to these people?
Well, we'll find out.
Yeah. And the only good out of it, in my opinion, is that people realize that it was stupid, and they won't be as quick to accept it in the future.
You think if there's another pandemic?
Right. I don't think people are going to accept the government, which is filled with a bunch of fucking silly people that have decided to run the government, having complete control over whether or not you can run your business, or you can decide to take, a trip somewhere, or you could visit your parents when they're in the hospital. Like, all that is crazy.
Yeah, I wonder what impact RFK Jr. is going to have on the delivery of the healthcare now.
Well, he's going to have so much of an impact that they're talking about preemptively pardoning Fauci. Like, well, how do you pardon someone that didn't do a crime?
Preemptively.
How are you pardoning someone where he's not only is he not convicted of a crime, he's not even tried, he's not accused, he's not indicted? Like, what do you...
I guess that's called blanket immunity.
Goldbelly ships the greatest food gifts to the biggest food lovers in your life. No way! I'm shipping Ida Garten's coconut cake and deep dish pizza from Chicago. Gift with Goldbelly. Order today and get free shipping nationwide.
It's really important to collaborate in cardiology with other specialties. That provides a comprehensive care for patients.
We're very proud of the team we've built here at Catholic Health. It's a nice system for choosing the right path for the right patient. We can replace, for example, an aortic valve without opening the patient's chest. It's got a much quicker recovery, and that's a great thing to see somebody walk out of the hospital the day afterwards.
Yeah. Well, it's never been done before. There's never been preemptive pardons for people that may have been committing crimes. It's weird.
Yeah. Well, do you know much about the fluoride story? A lot of people wonder about the pineal gland and DMT synthesis if you have a calcified pineal, which is more likely if you're fluoridated.
Have they ever done autopsy studies on people that are in high fluoride areas to check out their pineal glands? Or is this just like one of those things that people say?
Well, it's the case in lower animals that you feed them a high fluoride diet and their pineal glands calcify more rapidly. I'm not sure what the human literature is.
So when you say that, when they calcify more rapidly, like what animals are they serving them?
Oh,
Fluoride?
Rats, mice.
And what have the results been? Like significant differences?
Yeah, I mean, these experimental animals, pineal glands anyway, they do calcify more rapidly. Yeah, but whether or not that actually correlates to a reduction in melatonin production, for example, I'm not that familiar with the literature.
Is the number commensurate with what would even be possible with fluoride in water, or would it have to be some other form of poisoning? Is it like a very high level of fluoride that they're giving them?
With the experimental animals, this fluoride-rich kind of diet.
So then the question would be, what about the accumulation of fluoride in small doses over the course of a long lifetime?
I'm just not that current on the literature. There's a couple of things that occur that cause pineal calcification. One is aging. The older you get, the more calcification there is. Back when I was current on the pineal physiology data, which was a long time ago, like 40 years ago, there wasn't a relationship between the degree of calcification in the human pineal and production of melatonin. So, at least according to the data, to the data from the 80s, the degree of calcification wasn't functionally significant. But I get an email here and there wondering if fluoridation of the pineal might reduce the production of endogenous DMT, which theorized takes place. But we don't really know quite yet if the pineal even makes DMT, let alone if pineal calcification might reduce it.
Wouldn't it be interesting to measure different lifestyles and then also look at the age in which these people are and see if there's, like, when they die, if there's calcification? You have one person who's a marathon runner and they're 65 versus one person who's sedentary, drinks a lot, and they're also 65.
Yeah, you would think it would correlate with your overall general health.
Right. I mean, and if you're thinking that it's age-related, it may be age-related, or is it exposure over long periods of time, where it accumulates? Because the amount of fluoride in the water is very small. And this is one of the things that people point to when they say that it's not dangerous. It's very small. But the question is, like, where's it go? Like, does it actually leave the body, or does it accumulate somewhere?
Yeah. Well, you'd have to compare, you'd have to compare autopsies in older folks from, from areas that never have fluoride in their water versus those that did. And I'm certain those studies have been done. Like I said, I'm just not the current.
I just don't buy the idea that you should put fluoride in the water to prevent tooth decay. I just think that sounds like, the way I've described it, I said it's like putting sunscreen in the apples because some people get sunburn. Like, that doesn't seem logical. You could just brush your fucking teeth. Like, you don't need to have this weird neurotoxic chemical in our water, even in low supplies.
Yeah. Would you put fluoride in the toothpaste?
No. I don't have fluoride in my toothpaste. I don't have cavities.
Oh, I do. I've had it.
Do you eat sugar?
I love sugar.
That's it. I found it. I don't hardly ever eat sugar.
Yeah.
I mean, occasionally I'll have a cookie or something like that, but it's not a normal thing for me. I think it's diet. It's diet and it's brushing your teeth.
Yeah. Well, and I think exercising your jaw, too. Like chewing gum.
Right. Xylitol gum is supposed to be really good for your jaw and good for your teeth.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If you have a healthy jaw, healthy chin, I mean, you breathe easier.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I don't know how they got started with the whole fluoride in the water thing, but it seems like a giant scam. Like Big Fluoride is still selling fluoride to all these different water departments, and they don't want to stop. That's the only thing that makes sense to me. It doesn't make any sense that people would be willing to potentially sacrifice their children's IQ. There's a direct correlation between high levels of calcium in the water, high levels of fluoride in the water and low IQs. This has been established.
Okay.
So if that's true, that should be a fucking giant red flag for people. I mean, and once you eliminate all the other environmental things that may be consistent with the people that have lower IQs in children, if you're just pointing only at fluoride, if this is one thing that varies, like, this is a potential real problem. Like, we know that leaded gas reduced people's IQ. You know that, right?
Yeah.
When they used to have leaded gas, like people like me and you who grew up at a time with leaded gas, you probably would be like have a 10-point higher IQ if you didn't grow up with leaded gas. We have some sort of a percentage. I think it's a small percentage, but it's been measured. It's been measured that find out like what percentage IQ. What percentage of a detriment is leaded gas to your IQ? Because they actually have done studies on people and like what happened once unleaded gas was introduced and how children's IQs went up.
Oh yeah, super healthy. Yeah, it was quite helpful.
It's still in the ground in some places.
Well, it's still in a lot of pipes.
Oh really? Yeah.
Lead pipes?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, the whole thing.
Oh yeah. Oh right. Yeah, they use lead pipes. How crazy. That you're drinking water.
Well, the Romans use lead pipes.
I know.
Yeah, for their plumbing. Yep. The Latin name for lead is plum.
GS has given me the opportunity to really challenge myself in ways that I never thought that I could be challenged.
Plumbo.
That's crazy.
Yeah. That's why the pipes were called plumbing.
That's probably why the Coliseum got started. They're all fucked up on lead poisoning, just willing to throw their soldiers to the lions. Nearly half of U.S. population exposed to dangerously high lead levels. So what does this say about IQ? Here it goes. Exposure to car exhaust. Estimate childhood lead exposure has on average led to a reduction of 2.6 IQ points per person. That's nuts. Research also found that non-Hispanic black people, individuals with lower family income to poverty ratio, and those with an older housing age were likely to have higher levels of lead in their blood. Well, probably because they lived in urban areas where there's more car traffic, right?
Most likely.
Most likely.
Yeah. If they're inhaling.
If they're in cities, people that live in like very congested areas. Wow. 1973, Environmental Protection Agency issued its first call for manufacturers to begin a gradual reduction in the amount of lead in gasoline. I bet they're going to look back at fluoride the same way we look back at leaded gas.
Yeah.
We're going to go, what the hell were we doing? It doesn't even make any sense. Oh, it's for your teeth.
It's for your teeth.
Brush your fucking teeth. And if you use fluoride in your toothpaste, great. Just spit it out. Don't swallow that shit, right? You don't swallow tooth. My friend Eddie said it best. He said, if fluoride wasn't a problem, why would they want to sell you toothpaste without fluoride? And why does it say fluoride-free in the toothpaste? Why do people gravitate towards fluoride-free toothpaste? Well, because of studies like this, where they found that there is a correlation between IQ levels and fluoride. And at high levels, it's fucking dangerous for you. But there's all these people trying to dismiss it. Oh, stop. What's the big deal? There's nothing to this. Look at the amount of fluoride. Like, what about accumulative? Do we know? Do you really know? Or why are you so willing to accept the fact that it's a good idea to throw neurotoxins in the water supply?
Well, they may have just discovered it, through serendipity. There may have been some.
Well, they did discover it through that.
Yeah.
There was an area in Texas, I believe, where they had high natural levels of fluoride in the water, and there's a corresponding lower instance of cavities.
Yeah, that makes sense.
I think it's Texas. Just Google how did they start putting fluoride in the water. I'm pretty sure it's that.
There's some healing springs of some sort.
Yeah, some mineral-rich fluoride water. I don't know. But either way, just brush your teeth. Stop eating so much sweets and brush your teeth. Both those things are a good idea. Fluoride in the water, not a good idea. If you want to sell fluoride and tell people to add it to their water, fine. But put it in everybody's water, that's crazy. That seems crazy.
Yeah. Well, I mean, as a dentist, or when I was a small kid, we used to get these fluoride treatments.
Yeah.
Yeah, with this like blue gun, kind of gel that they would, put in a splint, and you put it on your upper and lower teeth for like 5 minutes or whatnot to
kill all those bad germs.
A fluoride treatment. Well, yeah, I think
lower your curiosity.
Yeah, you lower your IQ, which is maybe not a bad idea. Yeah,
you gotta wonder what the thing you were talking about before about some people just don't have imagination, which is really crazy to think that some people are they just got a little bad hand.
Well, they can't make stuff up. They must be quite practical, right? I mean, what you see is what you get. There's no abstracting.
That's very charitable. They might just be dull. They might be dull-minded, I mean, there's a certain percentage of our population that has an IQ below 85. What is it, like 15% or something like that? Was it higher than that? We were talking about it the other day, but I don't think we ever researched the actual number. But it's significant enough where you're like, whoa. You're running around the world with an 85 IQ. It's hard.
Well, you kind of wonder about the IQ test, right? I mean, what was it called? The Stanford Binet test. It was developed way long ago. May not really measure all aspects of intelligence. So
that's true.
Maybe someone with an 85-point IQ is smart in other ways, like emotionally intelligent, for example.
Okay, so with a 70 IQ, you have like 2%, 2-point-something% of the people.
Yeah.
When you get to 85, you have 13.6%. So 13.6% have an IQ at 85 or below. That's a lot. 34% is 100 to 85.
Right.
But you have to also factor in education, right? Like to take an IQ test, you have to be able to understand concepts. You have to be able to solve problems, and you most likely have to have been exposed to many problems when you were younger for you to understand how these work. And some people have had a very poor education, and they might be intelligent, they might be very emotionally intelligent.
Right. Yeah, that was what I was thinking, is that, it would be a different scale of intelligence than you're purely cognitive.
Right.
Yeah, well, that's one of the interesting elements about genetic engineering of the human. Yeah, there was a big article in something I was reading. Ecstatic Integration is a newsletter put out by Jules Evans, a friend, and he dove into genetic engineering of a fetuses. Like you can have a 3 DNA fetus or embryo, like the mom, the dad, and some super smart person or a super athletic person. So you could do like a chimera almost in the human situation.
I treated myself to a wild Alaskan company membership, and my only regret is that I didn't do this sooner. Every month, I get a box of high-quality, wild-caught seafood delivered right to my door. The fish comes pre-portioned, which saves me a ton of time and mess, and is just overall really convenient. It's packed with vitamins, omega-3s, and protein, and the taste is noticeably more delicious than any store-bought fish I've ever had. Treating yourself to high-quality seafood has never been easier.
Good afternoon. My name is Dino Scalia, and it's my pleasure to be co-hosting this Twitter space alongside my very good friend Micah Meadowcroft. This is the second in a series of conversations we're doing with men and women engaged in the fight to defend the West and revitalize the American way of life. Today we're joined by truly an all-star lineup featuring Johnny Burtka, president of the Intercollegiate Studies Institute, Dr. Kevin Roberts, president of the Heritage Foundation, and Senator J.D. Vance of Ohio. The proximate cause of our conversation today is the release of Johnny's stellar new book, Gateway to State.
That's probably what happened.
Yeah, it is happening offshore.
Yeah.
That was the gist of the
China's probably creating a race of super people.
Well, the first genetic engineering of the fetus occurred in China. It was a fellow working to develop HIV.
That's what it says.
Yeah.
But it accidentally made them a higher IQ. Accidentally.
Yeah. Well, so that guy's back at work.
Yeah. Well, he went to jail for a little bit.
Right. Yeah. He's got a big lab, lots of funding.
It's kind of weird. It seems like they kind of made him a scapegoat a little bit, which they tend to do over there.
Well, you think that in a lot of ways that he would be celebrated. Like, for example, the Scottish scientists that cloned that sheep, Dolly. Yeah. They were heroes.
Sure.
Yeah.
But I think we think very differently about it when it's being done with people. We get super nervous, especially if you're going to be the first person that does it. There's going to be a lot of outrage. And I think some of that outrage is going to be by people that wish they did it first. So they're going to be pretending that this is horrible, you've done this.
Right, they were scooped.
Yeah.
Yeah, I wonder if there was that kind of reaction with the first heart transplant or the first kidney transplant, if the originators of the methodology were demonized because they were like putting somebody else's heart in your place.
It has to be, right? Especially, well, we're lucky that it was done in the 20th century. Imagine if it had been done in the 18th century or the 16th century. If you in the 1500s said, okay, I know how to say this guy just got run over by a wagon. I'm going to take his heart out. I'm going to cut you open and put his heart into you. Like, what?
Right.
And that would have even worked because your body would have rejected it back then because they didn't have the proper drugs that allowed people to accept other people's organs and suppress your immune system. So your immune system doesn't reject the organ.
Yeah. I never was in a heart transplant operating theater. Once in an emergency room, actually, I was able to crack somebody's chest open and work on their heart. Give it the massage. Well, the person, was quite sick. He was dying, and we tried everything. Like everything. We used a defibrillator. We put some epinephrine in a big syringe, put it through his chest, into his heart. Didn't help. And the last thing that we could do was do open heart massage.
Wow.
Yeah, open chest massage. It's crazy. Yeah, and there are a bunch of a number of students around, and we took turns, squeezing it and feeling it. Was pretty.
Did the guy last after that?
No. By the time you open up somebody's chest and start squeezing their heart with your hands, it's kind of.
So did he make it through that day, or how long did he live for?
No, he never woke up.
Oh, Jesus.
Medical training is a pretty interesting experience. The kinds of things that you learn to do to the human body, and the kinds of things that people let you do to them because you're a physician. It's a very interesting development of a role. Like, for example, when we first started working in the hospitals, there's a dress code. This was 1976 or so, and there were lots of hippies in my class, and the dress code was to wear a tie, and the hippies were saying, "Oh, forget ties," and the teacher said, "Think what your mother would want to see her doctor wear." And everybody got all kind of guilt-ridden, and okay, our mom would like to see us wear a tie.
Right.
Yeah. So you work into a role. Like how you look and how you talk and how you want to carry yourself. Yeah, it's a very interesting, conditioning, social conditioning.
And you have an extreme position of authority.
Yeah, I mean, you could ask people, to do things that, that nobody else would ask them, and that they wouldn't even entertain if anybody else had asked them. Yeah, it's a very privileged position. It's very cool if you know what you're doing.
Oh, yeah.
And you don't let it go to your head, but, it's a unique apprenticeship.
Yeah, and they can do some wild things today. I mean, I'm living proof of it. I've had 3 knee operations, 2 knee reconstructions.
Yeah, a couple of years ago when I was out here for the first time, you were having some bleeding into your knees, I remember.
Swelling?
Some bad swelling at least.
Yeah.
Maybe they withdrew some blood from that joint.
Oh, you know what it was probably? I probably had what's called Regenikine. So Regenikine is when they take your blood out, and it's like platelet-rich plasma, but they spin it in this centrifuge, and it creates this yellow liquid, which is like a super potent anti-inflammatory, and then they had injected it into my knees.
Okay.
It really helps heal things. I had it done on my back, I had it done on my knees. It's amazing stuff.
Yeah, so you've gotten a bunch of knee surgery.
Yes. Yeah. My knees are pretty beat up. My back's pretty beat up. My knees are pretty beat up.
That's from your martial arts?
Yeah. Most of it, yeah.
Yeah, well, do you have a knee replacement? Or
No, I don't need that. No, it's not that bad.
Yeah.
Not nearly as bad. But quite a few people I know have one. My friend Matt got one. He's a former UFC welterweight champion, Matt Serra. He's younger than me. He has a knee replacement. My friend Michael Bisping, who's a former UFC middleweight champion, he has both of his knees replaced. His 2 artificial knees.
Yeah, and they're doing okay with their new knees.
Yeah, I mean, better, right? Like, he was in severe pain. They were in severe pain to the point where they just couldn't take it anymore. And they can do some pretty amazing things with resurfacing of the knees now. They have these titanium heads, if you see them.
Yeah.
Pretty incredible. Yeah. They lop off the end of your knee, screw in this new one, and it just functions. My feeling, the fear I have, though, my fear, is that it's only good for like 20 years or so. And then what do you got to do? You got to go back in there and lop off it again and put a new one in?
Yeah, well, they may have some new development.
That's what you would hope so.
Yeah.
You would hope so. But I mean, you're banking on that. You're like essentially...
Science, technology, engineering, and math are part of everything we do. At Project Lead the Way, we strive to help teachers make children in every grade STEM successful. Learn more at pltw.org.
You know what I hate more than anything? Terrible Chinese products. Did you know that those little things will shatter if you drop them from shoulder height? So this is Stock Box, and the best...
Making a bet that, okay, you can chop off the end of my knee, and in 20 years, they're going to have some new thing. The thing that would give me pause today, again, I'm not giving medical advice, but if today, biologics are coming so far that they're able to regenerate both meniscus tissue and also cartilage. So they can do that now. And there was a study in Australia where they did that recently, and I think there's something else going on somewhere in the United States where they're showing promise in that regard. So I think if people could just hang in there for a little longer, according to my friend Brigham, who owns Ways to Well, which is a stem cell clinic out here, he is convinced that these kind of like super invasive surgeries are going to be a thing of the past. They're going to be able to regrow tissue and fix, like literally fix knee problems, back problems, things along those lines.
Neck problems.
Neck problems.
Yeah.
They're already doing a lot of that in Mexico, where there's places like the CPI, the Cellular Performance Institute. I had a friend of mine, Shane Korean, he's a big wave surfer. You know, like you imagine it's a pounding thing in your back and crushed by a 50-foot wave, you know. And he had it done to his spine, where they go into your discs and they inject stem cells into each individual disc. They actually put you under, and you're supposed to like be, you know, real relaxed for the next like 6 weeks. No heavy exercise at all. You just kind of go walking, and after a while, it starts to kick in, and now he has no back pain anymore.
Yeah, is he back surfing?
Yeah, oh yeah.
Yeah. Stem cells. Well, you know, psychedelics affect the formation of stem cells into new neurons. That's called neurogenesis.
Yeah.
So.
Psilocybin in particular, right?
Psilocybin, ketamine, DMT.
Doesn't lion's mane do that as well, though? Like non-psychoactive mushrooms?
I don't know.
See if lion's mane creates neurogenesis. I think it does.
Yeah, Paul Stamets would know.
I think that's one of the things that Paul Stamets talked about, was doing it in a stack, like doing psilocybin along with, exactly what it was. Lion's mane mushrooms can promote neurogenesis and enhance memory. Yeah, I take that stuff. I take lion's mane all the time. And I always wonder how shit would my memory be if I didn't take it.
Yeah, when I was recovering, I spoke to Paul and said, help me, I need help. He said lion's mane. Yeah.
He gave me that giant mushroom, that thing on the desk over there. That's what that is. That big log-looking thing.
Oh, that's a mushroom?
That's a mushroom.
Yeah,
it's a huge one.
I was wondering what that was.
Yeah, that's a mushroom. That's Paul Stamets. Brought me a mushroom.
Yeah.
Yeah. He's a fascinating character.
Yeah, I like Paul.
Great guy.
Yeah.
I think he just got something replaced. Like a hip or a knee.
Yeah.
Something along those lines.
Well, you know, my friends that have had knee replacements, they're out skiing, they're playing golf. Yeah, they really have a miraculous turnaround.
Yeah, you can do amazing things now. It's incredible. I just think that we're real close to not needing a fake one. Real close to being able to generate new ones.
Well, you know, the organ I would like to replace in the eyes. I've been, like as a kid, I've been nearsighted and more nearsighted. So I would love to have artificial eyes if they work out.
Well, that's what we were talking about earlier, that they're going to be able to do that someday.
Yeah. I'd be happy with that. I might wait around as long as I can to get some. Like I can see it pretty well if the environment is brightly lit. But if it gets darker, dim, it becomes difficult.
Dude, you're gonna be able to see through walls. See if you can find that article about potential, because it's not just Neuralink. There's a few other competing companies that are doing very similar things, and one of them are very confident they're going to be able to restore sight.
In how many years?
I don't know. Yeah. And then on top of that, the possibility is enhanced vision, and that's what we're talking about, like being able to, see like warm things, like blind sight device being developed to restore vision in people who've lost their sight. No, there was one that was saying you're going to be able to have infrared, night vision, a bunch of different possibilities on top of the fact they're going to be able to restore sight. That eventually, I Google this, that wasn't just restoring restoring vision, but enhanced vision. And that it's going to be I think they're promising vision far greater than what human beings are personally capable of.
Blind sight enables superhuman vision beyond natural limits, like infrared becomes cognitive process, not just biological.
That's it.
Blind sight.
Oh, okay, so that is the same Neuralink thing. And then on top of that, you're going to be able to zoom out. So like you ever take like a Samsung phone, they have 100x zoom, and you can just zoom in on something like way in the distance. Like, wow, that's crazy. You can really zoom in on stuff.
Yeah.
You're going to be able to do that with your eyeballs.
Yeah. Feature enhancement too.
Yeah, you can be able to see people look way better than they really look. Just put a filter on.
Yeah.
Everybody's beautiful.
Yeah.
That's it on that tweet about it.
Yeah, so there it is. Musk explained the blind sight device from Neuralink will enable even those who have lost both eyes and their optic nerve to see. Provided the visual cortex is intact, it will even enable those who have been blind from birth to see for the first time. Here's the part that truly expands the horizons of what we think vision can be. At first, the vision will be low resolution, like Atari graphics, but eventually it has the potential to be better than natural vision and enables you to see infrared, ultraviolet, or even radar wavelengths.
like Geordie LaForge. Who's Geordie LaForge?